Happy Holy Day, Moors, and welcome to House of Reawakening Minds. House of Reawakening Minds exists to provide for exploration and practice of spirituality in an enlightened community dedicated to honoring the myriad of sacred pathways to the universal creator. We are a holistic center for spiritual grounding, free thought, self-discovery, and Moorish science, an awakening experience for all ages. Tonight, we are pleased once again to have back with us our National Grand Sheik, Taj Tarik Bey. Let's receive him.
Back to what we were talking earlier. The last class we had, we were going into de facto, de jure. And logically, as usual, the subject matter is multi-layered. And you have a tendency to not get off track, but get involved in certain areas of issues that really kills time. You know, and it is not that we don't want to go there. It's just that we want certain key information out for you to do research on yourself, because we can't, put it this way, it's quite difficult to undo what Rome has had a couple hundred years to do. Even though some of the Romans, too, are trying to help clean this up because they're getting ready to disappear if they don't help us. Even though many of them are battling among themselves right now, hoping they don't lose the estate that they ruled over unlawfully and opposite of anything divine for these last few hundred years. And they've had so much help, so many helpers among ourselves who our people have trusted, which makes it kind of difficult to unbury our people, because they believe these people are for Jesus, God, Allah, and so they trust them. Even though they're being exposed, you know, even from among their own, the time cycle is, the envelope is a little shorter than the people think it is. Do you understand? Which means, if these people don't wake up, most of them are going to not be here before they do start waking up. Or it'll be so much destruction by the time that people take this information serious that it's, you know, there's no need to cry. There's no need to have tears, because they are actually the creators of their own condition. However, at the same time, they have a right to the knowledge the same way the priesthood does. You understand what I'm saying to you? To make the decisions, meaning that the flip of the coin, they need the opportunity to make the choice rather than some man in a robe making it for them while they think that he's working in their interest and he never was. Put it that way. Do you understand? And because them people are, their positions are being threatened now. Their power base is being threatened, that has been ingrained in society for centuries. They almost feel like that they have a birthright to misuse humanity in the name of the Lord, in the name of God, in the name of Allah. Do you understand? And so anyone that starts revealing who they really are, they usually kill us off. You know what I mean? Or attack your family members. You know, either way, to try to shut you up or buy you off. Which is why most people won't get into this information. Not that they don't know it. They sell out. It's easier. And then people love them too and pay them well. Buy them planes and nice suits and stuff like that, and give them girls, whatever you want, hotels, drugs, cars. They live quite good off the widow's pennies. And they've been doing that for centuries. And the people love them. And they are their killers. And people don't know that they possess more stock in the arsenals of the world than any other orders. And it's hard for people to accept that when you tell them that they think you're attacking their gods. So this is probably why there will be just a handful of people that probably may survive this thing, may not. So that's why the subject matter. Again, another point that I want to make, and write this down, discernment. This particular word, study it carefully. get used to it, and understand it's involved in the nature of what we're doing, right? So when we're talking de facto de jure, we're suggesting to you to use discernment, all right? And the ecosystem, or the economic system, is really a bookkeeping system on the energy output of humanity, not unlike a battery. So most of the people, their concept of what they think economics are on this planet and what they think money is it's mostly about 85 to 90% incorrect. But it's related to them. But it's actually a reflection of other things. Not unlike if we handed you the double ledgers, not single, double ledgers of the Roman Curia members who you know as corporate heads of corporations, from Facebook to Macy's to Kmart to any corporate entity that you may name that you think has separate agendas because they got different names. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Okay. All their heads are members of the Roman Curia. Now, on their hierarchy, to present to you something that you might be familiar with. When you hear meetings of the Bilderbergers, those are head hierarchy members of the Roman Curia that plot what they're going to do to you and what they're going to limit you to. All right? While it looks like they're just dealing with business models, that's really what they're doing. And most of the time they'll come to meeting not dressed in real suits, you know, all just like jeans and just like and so you don't suspect them. Do you understand? And because of the brevity of what goes on, wherever they meet, whether it's at a resort or hotel, whatever, no one else, meaning that if they do a big hotel, there's no one in the hotel but them and security. Or around it, but them and security. Everything else is empty. And the public pays for it. The same way if the Pope comes anywhere in the Western Hemisphere under what they call the Constantinian order nations, sometimes referred to as the Christian nations, the public pays for their security and everything else. Are we clear? Because he's their God. Do you understand that? I don't care what religion they claim, he's their God. That's why they must pay for him. Are we clear? However, they got a few problems because some of the P2 Masons are trying to help get this work done. Some of them are losing their lives, but some of them are stepping out and telling you. Do you understand? Some will do pseudonyms and do different sites through other people and then mix the information, some with what you call slight diversions and injections of truth, and then allegorical codes, and then every once in a while, numerically blunt truths that they shoot out, hoping that those who have the ring, we're talking vibration ring, not ring, pick it up, so that they don't get caught and taken out. Do you understand? Now, the problem, another part of the problem is because the hierarchy is well aware of this time and that it was coming anyway. They've been accelerating things that they're doing to humanity to divert you. All right? The foremost, it's not exactly the foremost, but close to the foremost dog and pony show for your distraction is the Ku Klux Klan party trying to get Trump out of office. That's the front. Most of what you see is diversion, but also interjected every other numerical point a certain absolute truth will come out that gives humanity a gateway to come out. You know, so he's got to do what his assignment is before they kill him, or in that area. In other words, he do or die. That's his position. And he knows it. Do you understand? And because the masses pretty much are under mind control and entrainment, which means the average human's attention span is roughly just a little over 8 minutes, 0.34 in that area. And then they start fading out, locking out, and then about a minute or so they'll start coming back in, which is really why it's difficult to teach them. And they don't know that that's going on. People who know can look at them, look at their aura and tell that they're under entrainment. So that's difficult because people have egos and they don't like it when you see through them. Do you understand? If you tell them something that they know that you're not supposed to know about them, then they get uncomfortable. So you try to communicate with them without walking over that line and trying to help them without them getting caught up in your personality. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Okay. And those who know how things work will attack you as soon as you walk in the room. You don't have to say anything. They recognize you as soon as they see you. Because you already know you're going to get them or they're going to get you. That's what it is. Go ahead.
Islam, just to interject, you just talked about people who are under entrainment and don't realize that. The interesting thing, what came to mind when you said that, is the fact that the Bible says that we are to train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he's old, he shall not depart. We also know that, I'm not sure which pope it was, that says, give me the child for the first 7 years and I'll show you the man. What I want to say is that the entrainment isn't something that just began. This entrainment was always planned and it's written out.
Yeah.
We think that the Bible and the way that things are written, that it's so very ancient. While it's ancient, they have modern projections and current projections that are relevant to now.
Yeah.
So entrainment is something that was happening from the beginning of their.
Yeah. Well, let me say this: entrainment is organically direct on one front, and astrally indirect by communications. Both are used.
Absolutely.
It's done through video games. It's done through sound vibration that's used in some of your latest contemporary rap music. The vibrational entrainment is done with musical tone, just like healing is. In other words, you can take it off and create sickness too. And so it's done through the attack on or through rap music contamination by high priests who control the industry, not necessarily intended by the people who are artists or clear. Because most of them don't know that they're being used. Do you understand what I'm saying? Part of it is to create adversity between males and females, so that deals with the Sanger program, for the genocide, so where men and women don't get along, so they're not going to produce children, because they can't get along, so they can keep the relationships dead or not stable. That's part of it. That's just part of it. That has nothing to do with the bond system, with the marriage license and the birth certificates through the bank bonds. That's another part of it. But with the sound interjection of the vibrations of causing the split between the brain the brain chambers, so that you don't connect. See, because when you connect the two sides of the brain, you come into what they refer to loosely as Godship. Then they can't get you. This is why it's necessary for them to keep you focused on your concepts of what you think God is outside of you. So you can keep looking, outside of you for the God principle, while still not knowing what God really is or is not, So most of the God systems on humanity are humanity's making, as opposed to the reverse, So that leaves them open for attack. Because what happens is all their guard is down while they're seeking Godships outside themselves, and so the divinity that's already given to them by the divine, that's in them, they neglect that, they don't develop it, and it's actually taking your shield down. It's sort of like when you see in the story of the Bible, where when the Romans were lynching Yeshua, and they liked his jalabu, and they said, well, we're going to rip this up and share it between us, and they couldn't rip it. They did the best, they just couldn't tear it. It is that energy why they need you to willingly participate in them orders so they can rip your garment. Because otherwise, they can't get it. This is why, like, you look in Quran, Bible, WASPI, the Vedas, etc., Hexatal, Pentatal, any of the books, they say the dark side, the dark priesthood, Satan has no power, no jurisdiction, unless you give it to him.
That's right.
That's what that means.
That's right.
So the entrainment is to, some people refer to it as certain chambers of mind control that is worked over a period of time. Bartram Russell, write that down. 1953, Bartram, B-A-R, Bartram Russell. In Harmony, that's 1953, in harmony with John D. Rockefeller and Frederick T. Gates of 1902 with the establishment of the entrainment system for animal training known as the General Education Board. Now, the masses look at that from one perspective. However, none of the politicians and none of the administrators in any of the educational systems look at that the way that's presented to the masses. They know it's for animal training. It has nothing to do with true human development. It's for animal training. And so, for their own erudition, all of them belong to secret societies so they don't begin to believe what they're teaching the masses. That's why you see all of these preachers, rabbis, imams, PhDs will condemn masonry across the pulpit while in secret they are masons themselves. Do you understand? Will act like these people are black while wearing their Moorish fez in their secret chambers, dressed in jewels with Allah on it, knowing that Allah is the Moabitist, not some mystery God in the sky on a cloud type thing. And they've been running this game on humanity for quite some time, thinking that nobody will come and interrupt them. And so, though they knew it was coming, they're also angry when they see it, because they think they've killed everybody off. You understand? But there are some women here who are Pythagorean. That means there's multiple ways. And as we were talking earlier, even though there's a few who have reached that vibratory state, some are close enough that even though they use the electrical charge of the sperm, that there's a higher energy in their eggs. Which is also why Rome wants to kill. Like they talk about in the Bible, like Herod killing the firstborn. Well, they got to take that a little differently. That's where the Pope's claiming the ownership of the womb through the bank certificate, marriage certificates. Mars, the low ebb war quality of Mars. I, ninth letter of the alphabet, and rage. It's a spell cast. And so the people think that it's divine agreement between man and woman and Allah, and you all good and everything. Nope. It's a spell cast where Rome has claimed the women and their offspring. And so the people think that all these human family services are serving women. It's absolutely the opposite. Absolutely. They're killing their families. They got jurisdiction over the womb, over the fallopian tube, and the children belong to the corporate state of the Popes of Rome through the United States Corporation in Austria that the masses think is a country over here. There's another reason why we need to deal with de facto de jure. All right? So let's talk of just a little bit of some of the things. I had to do a podcast show. Was you on this one?
Which one?
Last week?
Last week? Oh,
With Mustafa?
yeah, I watched it.
All right. That was a good choice. Because one of the things we talked about, and I want you all to remember this, and like I said, these things are related, you understand? You know when we talked that the United States is a political metaphor? So how many of you in this room know that the United States is a political metaphor? Raise your hand. Look around the room. Look around the room. Now, consider this. You being adults, for the numbers that do not know, do you recognize how many of our offspring are in trouble in the molded mind that it's a country? Central North America, where we're domiciling, they think it's this country. And they have built their lives, their mentality around it, and they have taxed and tithed to pay for it against themselves. And yet they have a lot of different organizations to deal with the poisons that are being injected upon them, both mental and physical, seeking cures that they never get. Do you understand? So let's say this. For those who know, who've been outside these shores, who have talked to other nationals around the planet, who knows basic third grade geography that's taught to children outside of this jurisdiction operating under the Jesuit order. So the United States Corporation Trading Company, registered in France and Austria, that's occupying North America via the Vatican and Westminster, London, under the European colonies known as the United States Corporation Trading Company, with the same trade number as Canada, which is also part of that union. Are we clear? Okay. So the masses who don't understand this think that Canada and what they know as the United States are different political jurisdictions. Well, they're not. That's for the masses. Meaning that's for who they call the sheep, the believers, the tithe taxpayers. Do you understand? So, write down the United States and make a small u, and I'll do some of this here so we can talk. Small u, and that can be capitalized. And then you can do this. Now Now, those who know these are two different jurisdictions.
That's right.
Yeah.
Those of you who read that letter from Pope Francis to Barack H. Obama when he did the motu proprio, well, no, he didn't do it. No, he wrote the letter to Obama directly in 2014, dated on the heliacal rising of Sirius behind the sun, which is July the 4th. Has nothing to do with date of independence for the Europeans being brought into government by the Moors. No, that's July the 2nd. They adjusted to harmonize in history with the heliacal rising of Sirius behind the sun. Because Earth culture is cosmology. Moorish culture is cosmology. Islam is cosmology. Are we clear? Now, so rulers know that, but the masses are never to know that. So they can always be in servitude. Are we clear? Are we clear? The deal is to reverse that. So the priesthood will always fight this. Someone bring me.
Speak to you very quickly. Can you just speak on what a heliacal rising is?
Helio means the sun.
Right.
Just like the Bible is really a modern and improper name given to the adjusted Septuaginta that the people call the Bible. The priesthood know that's not the name of that book. You know it's not the name of that book. But the masses are guided by what they think they know about that book. Right? So, Holy Quran, Sun Reader. Holy Bible, Sun Book. They're harmonic. They're not really separate in the concept that people think they are. Do you understand? Even though the Bible was modified by the priesthood for mind control, it is not false in the concept that people think it is just because they're coming from another perspective of religion. But most of them don't know that whether you're dealing with Torah, the Holy Quran, Holy Bible, they all come from one cosmological origin, but they're coded differently for mind control purposes by the priesthood. But the priesthood has all of them. Are we clear?
Clear. The
opportunists only present one to them according to the club they're controlling, their pockets are in their hands. So when they talk about laying on of hands, watch your bums. Because really, that's what they're about. That's one of the things they're about. And you got your hand on your wallet. And so the devil telling you we was making peanut butter sandwiches, we was doing good for the Lord. And we was just turned around and then the devil came, we turned around and lo and behold, hallelujah to you. They took all the peanut butter sandwiches. Now we got to raise money and kick the devil's ass. And all that stuff, and the people, yes, and they start crying and giving them their grandmom's lunch money, give their grandmom's house that should have went to their child and working at McDonald's because they can't afford an apartment. All of this stuff has been working quite good. Well, it's over for them suckers.
Yes.
The deal with it is you got to do it. Nobody coming to save you. You will save yourself. Or not. You understand? However, they're all cosmological books. The heliacal rising of Sirius is simply when it's shadowed according to the position of the Earth in relationship to the sun, where you don't see it. Do you understand now? So you have, all right, like say for instance, say around 7 millennia ago, our watches had 19 dials. But humanity has fallen so far that it's hard for them to deal with the 2 dials. The moon and the sun, by which we deal our chronology in recent times. And so they think that that's where we are. It's not where we fell. Far. And the priesthood's job is to keep them in that state of mind while they themselves know better. So this is why the mystery God of 6,000 years, which is really the work of the priesthood, and total fiction, not total fiction, but fictitious in the way it's presented, while they themselves know that we've been here for millions of years, and not only on this planet. Their job is to keep humanity from recognizing, because it's like this. Once you are no longer naive about the idol God systems that they sold you, nature herself will start healing you, because your vibration will change. We are self-enslaved, pretty much, with belief systems that we think Prophet Muhammad, Yeshua ben Yosef, Zikra, Amun Ra brought to us, when half of them were just different rulers from different dynasties, and many sociologists that they misrepresented in all of these books, and some of them were simply rulers competing with each other for rulership over you in different parts of this planet, and some on parts of this planet, on some parts of other planets. And we've been interchanging with them all the time. There's never been a time that we haven't been interchanging with other beings. There's mysteries about no UFOs. That's the biggest BS that came down. No, they're just other people from other planets, some humanoid. Most of them in the solar system are humanoid, but don't necessarily look like you. And if some look just like you couldn't tell the difference. They're walking down the street. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And it's always been that way. It's never not been that way. The deal of it is, most of the ones here, because this is a school. Earth is a school, and it's a garden for a lot of us who have been broken. A lot of us who are, if you're thinking, you're savable.
Wow.
And if you're here to learn. And some are here to help. Some don't have to be here. Some chose to come back to help. Right? But don't get them confused. They're not better than you, and they're not divine in this spooky thing that they say. It's just that they have compassion, and they want to help. Well, for the most part, everybody here is broken, and so they need to be fixed, but you have to fix you. So if you're conscious, it's because you were chosen to live. And to live, what we like to call to live, is not exactly like most humans look at it. Because these people are energy packages that can be removed from that body, like a little light, and placed in another one too. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And the reason you can't name them, because they're layered energy packages. Do you understand? So the broken ones, some of the broken ones, because where we think, we've been trained to think we're the height of the food chain type thing.
What about me?
Do you understand? But there's others who understand that we're in an evolutionary stage. And then there's others who are here to protect us, who you generally know as, from the 9 chambers, or the general 9, to the masses called angels, groups that pretty much in this particular solar system, the ones that you're familiar with is the Caribs. People call them cherubs. They're Caribs.
Yeah.
And the Seraphs, that you call seraphims. And so when you see in different parts of Asiatic countries where they greet each other and they go on this side and they go on this side, cherubim, seraphim, fallen angel, you. So when they do that triple, that's cherubim, seraphim, fallen angel. That means they're your recorders. But it's really in you, truthfully. But those that in the hierarchy, that's 1 and 2 of the 9, because some of them want to kill you. And not them, others. And they've been pretty much the protectors of Earth. That's why they have played so much in the culture, but they'll show them in books, old books, like with little children with wings, symbolic. but the wings are really ships or devons. You understand? And in the early days, some people play it safe with people who can't handle and say flying carpet. Get over yourself type thing. You know, but that's real. But let's not go there so people don't get distracted. Let's deal with where we are. Let's deal with fixing some issues. That's what your job is. Meaning that you know how like when the Quran and the Bible goes, will give you the philosophies like this, how dare you claim the love of God you do not see, and love not your brothers and sisters whom you see every day. The common law on this earth culture is based in that when it says, how dare you claim knowledge of the law when you know not yourself and dishonor your mothers and your fathers. That's what the common law is based on. If you go in the law book and you analyze what it tells you about common law, that's common all over the world. That's why they say honor your mothers and your fathers that your days may be longer upon the earth plane. Yes, your inheritances. You stand outside of that, you have no inheritances. This is why the dark priesthood denationalized the Canaanite Moabites that they conquered. This is the brand system where they put their family names on you, described in St. Isaiah 64 in that area, when reference is made that I hold my hand out all day long to a hard-hearted and rebellious people who are not called by my name. When they repent from their sinful ways, I will hear from heaven and heal their land. That's an estate. Land ain't that one cloud what the preacher told you, because he works with the dark side. But the people believe them. You see the point? Even in contradiction to the very books that they themselves are promoting, because they know these people can't read. They know these people don't know their cosmology books, and the people trust them because they say, you know, they have this artful way. Jesus. Allah. Bismillah. You know, people. And they start giving them their coins and stuff. I really don't want it, but you can be a little more generous. Next time when we hit the rings, though. It's just Jesus is here, and we're Chase Manhattan down there. These people, and they've been getting away with it. But anyway, back to facts. The facto du jour. Another reason I want to do a video with you. Because we got to do some maths, because people have a tendency not to really understand if you don't show them maths. So, this is a gold coin. This gold coin is a $50 gold coin. The real fact of it is, multiply it 9 times. That's the minimal value of what this actually is. Do you understand? And they're suppressing it with paper gold certificates.
Interest rate.
Are we clear? All around the world, right? So, this is $1. Silver dollar. Right? According to the date, now when you deal with the actual value of it, not the coinage value. Coinage value date, it varies, and this would vary from 100 and some notes down to about 23. Actual value, you can compound this about 8 or 9, and in some places a little bit more actually than gold, contrary to what people think. Whereas this is used more or less for heart healing, ground up. Because a lot of this is around your heart, which is also why the Constantinians came in the Spanish Inquisition to take our gold and silver. Because it's not only its cosmological relationship in our culture, these are also healing values even when you carry them in your body.
Come on.
For instance, like if you're burned, take this silver and lay it on there in that area wherever you're burned, germs cannot live. As a matter of fact, those who really understand the science take this and grind this up and you burn, lose a bunch of skin, and they'll rub it on you. It's called silver dyeing for burn, so that you don't die from the infection alone. Forget all the other stuff. But anyway, the point that I want, if you all want to, you can come take pictures of this, because I want you to look at this. I want you to have a comprehension of this, because this is part of the lesson. That's why I want to do a video with you, so that people can really see, because the concept of de facto appears, I think people are in many ways still looking at it from a data perspective and from a moral argument perspective, but they don't perceive what it really is because they've never seen these things. Do you understand what I'm saying? They hear about them and they imagine in their mind. So the physicality, which is called mass. All right. Now, this gold coin, the coinage principle of this gold coin is called yakumthal. From that, you get the derivative dollar, which means gold coin. Are we clear? Write that down. Are we clear? So, that's the dollar gold coin. It will be smaller for a dollar, but that's what yakumthal, that's where dollar has its origin. Are we clear? Okay. The certificates, let's look at this, because I want you to kind of get a feel for this. And we want to demonstrate this in physicality later. I'll bring some certificates in and we'll do a demonstration in physicality. When the Constantinians started coming here in mass to steal our gold, they'll use the chronological number 1492. That's in harmony with the fall of the Red House. All right? Which is why they'll do the movies like Casablanca, with Humphrey Bogart and stuff like that in Morocco. And that's why the palace is called Casablanca, or White House. And so they made that area the seat for the Roman goddess Columbia. That's why it's called District of Columbia. And 10 square miles mean the manual, like we make a manual, man's 10 fingers, and he puts his hand in writing. That's where you get the word manual. So they write a manual. So the manuscript for controlling you is in the 10 square miles, set forth on the borderline of Virgin Maryland, Virginia and Maryland. You understand? Oh yeah. And then they put an obelisk there for George Washington, who was not the first president, he was the 9th. But he is not himself so much as the figurehead for converting the Moorish estates and Bonnevilles into the states under the popes of Rome, under conquest, or clear. Then they make the artificial lines of what you call states jurisdictions. Are we clear? And much of that meeting was not just there, contrary to what people think. And in Philadelphia, much of it was in Haddonfield in New Jersey, too. It's just part of the history that they ain't telling you. Masons know it. Priests know it. Politicians know it. The masses are never told these things. Are we clear? Because it keeps you in what they call a disconnected state of mind. That's how they can entrain you. See, because as long as they can control the narrative, and you accept the narrative, they control the mind, the body just simply follows. Are we clear? And so people who are even intelligent are under entrainment and don't know they're under entrainment. All right? So, and this is why it's sometimes difficult to teach people, because their egos get in the way. Because, once we get past 7, we start learning ego and vanity. So now we're more conscious of that bookie that's here that we don't, before then we didn't care. You know, when you get after 7, oh, can't be having that now. You know, type thing. And after, you know, when you start getting into those ages, this is why they say truth comes from the mouth of babes, because when babes, they're close on the other side, and some of them aren't already veiled, some of them aren't totally veiled, you know. And so once in a while you'll find a few that are not totally veiled, and if you can get them like out of the energy of other people, and just look them in the eye and talk to them, you'd be surprised what they know that you think they don't know. If you pick them and remind them, most of them you have to kind of get them into a vibratory tone where they can communicate. You know, some of them will start telling you stuff and you, oh shit, where you come from? You know, and some children that are not totally veiled scare their own parents. This is why you start drugging them.
Right.
Okay, brilliant.
Some children that are not veiled do what to their own parents?
Scare their parents.
Scare them. Okay.
Like they say.
But it's only because their parents have been Constantinized.
It's wrong.
See, they're already under entrainment.
It's wrong.
So they don't recognize because they're outside of real culture. Whereas if they weren't outside of real culture, they could look at some of their children's eyes and tell that that's their grandmother's mother. And communicate and know it. Not guess it, know it.
That's right.
It's wrong.
And some of your children are your parents. Direct. They just took another body. You know. And then some of your, funny thing, this is really funny, because some of your other family's children are your parents. It often happens in families. Very often. Then you might choose, you're kind of bored with this. You might go into what you might call another nation state. And you still be family. But the body wouldn't look the same. And you say, oh, there's a different nation, or they think it's race, because the species is race, but entrainment, the people think they're races in the sense. That's kind of not true, not the way people think it is. The only way you would call races is if, like say, if you got some of the people from some of the other planets that are less structured humanoid than you are, then you're talking races. But if you're talking about most of the things on this planet, you say race, you're just simply talking extended family of humans. And that extended families will be known as nations or nationalities. But they are the human race. But the priesthood twists that up so they can control people and make them enemies to each other and then feed on both of them. Do you understand? That's how they've been working this thing. This is, again, why it's difficult to get humans to harmonize. Not because it's not in their nature, because it's in their nature actually to harmonize. It's just that their belief systems have caused evil, disorder, slander, hatred, and things like that. And they think it's part of nature. It's not part of nature, it's part of their entrainment. But anyway, I don't want to get off into that. But this is important. All right. I was talking to a man before I got on the train up here, who ran into me. I was with my mama this morning. My mama came over, and we were downtown, went to the gallery, walking around, and then I came up here. She went on, I came up here. And a man that we had passed near 12th and Market, recognized me and said, "Oh man," can't believe you walking down Market Street. Man, keep up the good work, blah, 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 blah. You know, type thing. Then another man that when I was waiting in the train, you know, was having a short conversation. And he was talking about Trump. And like most of them start getting into the negative. Now, of course, I'm not defending Trump, you know, but I already know what his role is, if you get the point. And so we got into that conversation, and then he talked about the banks and blah, blah, that stuff. While we were talking, I called from Washington, from Capitol Heights. You already know, you may or may not know, so I'm not going to say the name, you know, with due respect. So, didn't complete the conversation, but we talked about the surety. You know about the surety. You're going to Citibank to deposit that surety the other day. And as a matter of fact, while I was having this conversation with this other man on the train, he called back. I said, I'll call you back when I get to the station in Wilmington where I can, where I can hear you good. And anyway, he deposited the surety, which you already know is in the thousands. And, went toward. And so Citibank representatives called him, so that must be around, what time did I get in when I called you, Dr. Naila?
2:30-ish or something.
Yeah, then it was in that area, because I wasn't looking at the time. But anyway, they called him in between my conversations, and they said, your surety bond, is security, pardon me. It's not fungible, it's not, it has no value.
Wow.
And the initiation of the call, he wanted me to have a discussion with him about why. And so I went into what we all know is taking place. You know that the Knights of Malta and the P2 Masons and the Orders of Christ, i.e. the Torquemada operatives, known as the Jesuits, have been pumping roughly 89 billion Federal Reserve notes a day into the entire banking systems in the Western Hemisphere to keep them from collapsing.
Wow.
They hide behind the name repo, so write this down because you need to know what's going on. Repo is an action where, like, say all of you are bankers, right? Now, let's not get this confused. So if you're saying Citibank, Santander, Chase, doesn't matter. That's for the masses to think these entities are separate. They're all one.
That's right.
Are we clear?
Yeah.
So, as we've been telling you for about 7 or 8 years, the world's going to dump the Jesuits' debt note that the masses have been trained in entrainment to think is money. And they're still, in their mentality, still calling it money. This is the reason why I brought up the gold coin and show you what money is. And that's money. If it's not that, it's not money. Stop calling anything but that money. As soon as you do, you've accepted the liability. That's a cash trick by the dark priesthood. And they hold you to it too. I'm not getting into that, but I'm telling you. So grab that and don't move from it. And don't keep making that mistake. Because they're using it against you currently, and they're going to increase using it against you later. Because they're under pressure. And so they'll sacrifice you first. So you train yourself to kill that dark language.
Islam.
That connotative linguistics is going, because it's used to kill you.
That's right.
And it's part of entrainment operations under Phoenix. That's a whole nother program. And like I tell you, so a lot of things, I don't want to get off into these things. I'm throwing these things at you so when they come up with you later, that you'll have a reference point. That's all. But anyway, they admit to about 75 billion. Fact, around 89 billion, and really more. They promised that they were going to end it October the 10th. And, which we knew they weren't going to. That's just for the public, because some of the Europeans are exposing the system because their middle class is being dissolved. So some of them who are Eastern Stars, DARs, Masons, etc., are recognized a couple years ago, although, say 10 years ago, they were mad and blaming Mexicans and blaming everybody else for taking their American jobs when they ain't Americans. All this kind of stuff. And finally got over their egos and recognized that they were really being thrown under the bus, which wasn't supposed to happen. Because they were supposed to have all the jobs, the human services jobs, controlling the poor neighborhoods type thing, with 2 and 3 figure jobs, and they've been, with a whole bunch of duplicities, and they've been living quite well, producing absolutely nothing for actually social control jobs given different names. And when they can't float their bonds anymore, it got to the point where they couldn't keep maintaining this artificiality. So their godheads have been, they like to call them elite, been dissolving the middle class, i.e. sacrificing them. And they can't stop it because they can't float bonds anymore. You got to understand what's really happening here. So the repo is this. You're a banker, right? You got to close your books. All books are closed, 12 midnight 0?
That's right.
01?
Reset.
Oh, yeah, reset. Everything's 0. Can't do it no more. They haven't been able to do it for quite a while. It ain't beginning now. It did in 2007. It didn't change. It's just all this hype has been to keep these people busy. It's just worse now. That's all. That they can't hide it anymore. This is the same issue unaddressed of 2007. It's not new. Meaning that the cancer that they plotted for everyone else, they started noticing.
It's coming to me.
Hey, who's attacking? Ow!
Back up.
Pin cushions.
Yeah.
And you can't ignore it anymore in the real world. And as you all know, whereas we've been transacting business with the Federal Reserve notes and entrained to call them dollars and call them money, and then say that we were U.S. citizens, not knowing what it meant. Thinking that meant some kind of citizenship and some kind of nation thing, not knowing that we were agreed security holders for the underwriters of the Khazarian order in Austria, operating the Roman Curia for the U.S. corporation, Canada company, German company, European company owners' stock, with all of our estates, past and present. That's what a U.S. citizen is.
Yeah, it is.
For real. And what I just said is known by all rabbis, all imams, all bishops, not your low-level pastors, like in the neighborhood type thing. Some of them, but we talk all the ones with the titles, LLDs. Oh yeah. Then all your councilmen and women, your mayors. They ain't your mayors, I'm just
mayor.
those persons that
Acting
play,
actors. Yeah.
Active.
the governors,
Substitute base.
city commissioners, and except for a handful the sheriffs, and all those persons that these people have been thinking is their government, are really a hierarchy members of the Roman Curia and Knights of Malta. Although most of them aren't direct Knights of Malta, there are Knights Templars, Knights of Columbus, Master Masons, DAR, Daughters of American Revolution, Daughters of ISIS, Thule Society. All of it is Masonry, study of mother and son, i.e. the science of Islam, not the salami baloney concept that people think it is. The science of running the planet. Do you understand? The science of the universe. The study of the universe. The operated gnosis of the universe. Ephemeraides guidances for the day.
That includes the congressmen and senators.
Oh, they already, the kingship oligarchy members,
Islam.
falsely known as congressmen and senators,
Islam.
who stopped being that in 1861. Go ahead, sis, give her the mic.
In front of you.
This is why these things are important. And again, I'll talk with you later, because a lot of comments on people were listening in that I didn't know, and people have been talking about the show you did. Just
My show?
yeah, but this later.
All right.
All right, go ahead, sis.
When you say that they all are members of a kingship oligarchy, that they do all have essentially these oaths to the secret treaty of Verona.
Yeah.
Is it that, I guess, all of them explicitly understand this, or is it just
Now,
by virtue of the title
let me say
that
this to
protects
you.
them?
Let me say this to you. Because your question is sincere, and in some ways valid. Let me kind of hand it to you this way. You all are in here and we're having a session on building, construction, and carpentry, and electric, and just general maintenance. You have different levels of knowledge. Among you, and the audience is much bigger, will come persons who will take on the titles of carpenter and contractor. It's like you have a lot of people get in politics, but only a handful become congressmen and senators. Are we clear? So you kind of get that? All right. So now you all who have title, you're carpenter, right? You know, because we got to fix the door and stuff. Oh, do you know what a saw is? Do you know what a saw is? Do you know that but are you sure that some carpenters don't know what a saw is? Do you kind of understand the naivety of the question? Sincere but naive.
Yeah.
Oh, like, it's, put it this way too. A man or woman runs for political office for the operations here at North America Central. So we want to talk about other jurisdictions, right? Other jurisdictions. Let's pretend that you're a third grader. Stand up for a minute. Come on up. Now, we're in school. All right, so you're a teacher, right? So what we're going to do, everyone, all the children stand up, and we're going to say Pledge of Allegiance and stuff. Come on, say Pledge of Allegiance. Let's do it like we do in school. I pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance.
Get in the mic, because they want to hear you. Yeah. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice bra and stuff. Right? Now, thank you very much. Give her a hand. Now, that demonstration is just to emphasize the simplicity of truth. Even children say republic. Then the parent, through entrainment, will say our democracy, which exists nowhere in none of the founding papers for this operation of government.
Islam.
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 Article 4, Section 4 of that Constitution for this republic commands that every state in this union must maintain, to be a part of the union, a republican form of government. And you want to tell me that these congressmen and congresswomen who keep going around the world enforcing democracy operations on other nation states, and these teachers in these schools telling these children, we're sending you into these armies to fight people who are not part of the democracy system, and that we have a right to kill them since they're not Christian or Democrats, and want to argue with you, or you're going to defend and talk about they don't know what they're doing? I suggest that we're naive.
Islam.
As a reminder, and again, March 27, 1861, the Congress adjourned sine die. This is why the duplicity, or some things have to be redundant to remind people, because they still don't get this. They still don't get it. It's data. It's not in their hearts and minds. Therefore, they're subject. They have no defense when the attack is made, because they're not putting up the energy in their pineal gland. Because nature only defends things that are in honor. Nature doesn't recognize all the names we call ourselves. You know, see, because what I am, see, I'm Sunni Muslim of the Ahmadiyya sect from East India. Oh, yeah? Yes, because my cousin is Baptist of the Methodist Church of God in Jesus Christ Incorporated of the Lord. And the Pentecostal preacher of God in Jesus, of the blood of sandwiches. And everybody's, they start crying, they do all this stuff. And these are humans doing this, adults. And step out of these beautiful buildings, darkness and misery and poverty and drugs and jail and gangs of New York choking people on the streets with blue uniforms.
Yeah.
And these people think they're lawmen because they don't know what a constitution is. And then they say, well, maybe that police officer, he's not an officer, he was elected by no one. He's a contractor for the United States Corporation Company of Austria and foreign jurisdictions, murdering people on the street, and protected by the feudal court order systems of the Chancery Church located in England. And these people wonder why they can't get justice. It was never intended for them to get justice. They're under occupation. And too naive to recognize it or to admit it. And you know who sanctions them? The kingship oligarchs. Our oligarchy members that you call congressmen and senators.
That's right.
Who get kickbacks.
From that, yeah.
You think they know? Why do you think they want to get Trump out of office without due process? Why do you think they're having what you would call an impeachment process when they never had a vote for impeachment, which is not constitutional? Why do you think they had this investigation for 3 years, came up with nothing, and still accusing him of the same things that the record proved that he didn't have anything to do with? That in fact, Biden, Pelosi, what's the other one? Jim Carrey, all of them and their sons, the very stuff that they were doing in these other countries, which is well known,
Right.
they're putting it on Trump to get him out of office. And you know, the masses are behind him. Yeah, man, they need to impeach him and shit. Because see, when you had casinos in Camden, they're in Atlantic City and stuff, and they start that kind of stuff. You don't know that man. He didn't do a damn thing to him. Do you understand? And they mad because they said they're trained like animals, rats.
Yeah.
They mad at Trump. Well, what did he do? I just don't like him.
Exactly.
He don't know how to make sandwiches and shit. You know, it's like these people, the masses are really not intelligent. But they're under entrainment and don't know it. And it doesn't mean that Trump is their friend. He's not necessarily their enemy. It doesn't mean he's their savior, but he certainly is the good one amongst the rats. And the fact that they don't recognize it is the danger for them. Not so much him, for them. And the fact that they don't even understand government, they have expectations from him that he has nothing to do with. And they make judgments with that extreme ignorance that is their own, that they accepted from the very people that they've trusted. Half of them don't even know the Democratic Party is the Ku Klux Klan.
They really don't.
And then they always talk about how come their neighborhoods ain't making progress. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Islam.
If you think for 1 minute that these congressmen and congresswomen don't know what the hell they're doing, that's part of your entrainment.
I think my question was more if that's really the purpose of the titles, is that essentially once they reach those titles, now they're
You're blinded by title. It's not unlike this, right? I'll say, sis, look, what you mean you got headaches? My boy. See my boy over here, I've known him for years and stuff, you know? He's all into that surgery and, you know, and the skill of the human body, and he lays hands upon you and stuff like that, and heals and stuff. Let me move this stuff. You understand? Lays upon this table. See, he got a sign out there talking about brother surgery of Wilmington, Vandenberg, and Pine. You know, then, you know, you say, oh, yeah, and you trust what I say, right? Because he got a sign up there saying surgery. And then these books over here, and you see the book over here saying human anatomy and everything. And then you land on the table, he's in the back getting his gear together and stuff. He comes out with this, and you smell something? Something smell like dirty laundry or something. He's come out dirty towel and stuff, and he lays it out. Got these dirty butter knives, and someone's got peanut butter and jelly on them, someone's got bologna stains and stuff. And you say, what's he? What, you want me to wash them? No, these are my tools and stuff. We're going to fix your headache. I suggest you immediately get up and run as quickly as you can. March 27, 1861.
Oh, yeah.
The story you hear about the assassination of Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln, is 50% is 25%, 23.5% all of it.
Come, teach right there.
The rest of it ain't been told. All right, so write this down just in case we don't get to a manumission that you'll see later in the Emancipation Proclamation issue. And of course, you already know everybody likes to talk about the 40 acres and the mule thing. You know, give them a mule with a saddle and most of them slide off on the other side anyway. But anyway, let me get up on this mule and chat. Y'all don't know how to ride horses. Brother, Jake.
Oh.
Can't even ride tricycles with training wheels. I'm gonna ride the donkey. Deal. Abraham Lincoln was a member of the bar, which is one of the reasons why, from a legal perspective, he could not technically hold office of the United States. Are we clear?
Clear.
But because of his history of going against the grain, against the operations of the colonial operations agreements, that helped him get in office, if you get the point. They weren't too tickled about that. Because the Moorish order was falling and collapsing anyway, because we were in violation of our own culture and rules. So we were on the downturn anyway. However, Abraham Lincoln was, and it wasn't really just him. So you do a little research on Stuart and others who were in behind, who's was also advising him on moral principles, because certain moral principles, if you break, nature takes effect, and you can't forget nature's law or hermetic laws, laws of cause and effect, compensation. Are we clear? Duality. That has nothing to do with legislation, and that you can undermine yourself when you violate these rules. So don't go over certain lines. And of course, some people, when they start getting what they think is power, believing in themselves, and the artificiality of causing pain and death on other people, that represents power to them. When they have people in place who will protect them to do that. You understand? So, the plot came about of getting rid of Lincoln because some of the policies that were being discussed among him in the Republican order, in harmony with the principles of Muslim law, because the Constitution for the United States is really Muslim law, contrary to what's taught to people.
What's wrong?
It's actually honesty. Honesty, Gishnawa, law of the great peace. And this is where you see the tree type thing. Sometimes they call it the tree of Lebanon. And you ain't talking Lebanon on that side. You got to know what you're really looking at. And also representing what you know as the continental flag, sometimes referred to as the treaty flag. So when you see that red flag with the white canton, with the tree in the canton, that's the continental flag. That is the continental flag, flag of the continent. Are we clear? Which would include Canada, Mexico, on down. Are we clear? All right.
Can you clear something?
Say it again.
What am I?
Clear something.
What am I?
Now, the issue of the 40 acres and a mule. Imagine here, just in this room here, we're not talking about the men and the women just across this little territory here. Just imagine you all in this room and your children, each being given back of your lost estate, 40 acres and a mule, and the obligation of the United States corporation operators to fund the buildings and the facilities that are needed to maintain. How much of this territory just here would automatically come out of the corporate state's hands?
All of
Just this territory.
All of it.
Now you consider the ones that had not been murdered or genocided out, and they did that, they would have had to give the whole country back again.
That's
so
right.
Lincoln had to go. This is why you never got 40 acres on New York. Do you understand? And the other reason is they needed to mentally disconnect you from the land. This is where the Indian thing came from. Native American Indian thing came from, which is total fiction.
It's not.
Do you understand? And while it's so important for the branding system, Negroes, some of you be Negroes, some of you be colored people, some of you be black, and all of these are fictions. So now you schism the people, you disconnected them from the treaty, disconnected them from obligation. All you need to do now is get the rest of them out of government. This is why when you see that movie that they showed in the palace, what's the name of that movie? It was a talkie. They called it a talkie.
Birth of a Nation.
Huh?
Birth of a Nation.
Birth of a Nation. And you'll see them having Moors with formal tail suits on, like some people call them tuxedos, eating chicken and watermelon and acting like buffoons in the beginning of the movie, because those were your congressmen and senators of the republic. And they told them, step down or die. And people get so caught up in the fake race argument that they've been told over the years that most people don't pay attention to that scene. Because in their mind, they were told that the people of Asiatic African descent were all slaves. But it's right there for you to see, right in your face. But the people under entrainment are so busy talking about skin complexion and racism, they're blind to what's being showed right to them. Do you see the point? Now, point. The Congress adjourned the deal, March 27, 1861, which means they're adjourned without day, as you were talking about. Now,
She wants to jump in real quick.
Just want to jump in and make some, see if we can get some clearance from online viewer. Many people are confused by the word republic and Republicans. Many think the Republicans is the Republic. Could you go ahead and clear it up?
It's not. No.
Right.
Now, what you have now for hold on, because you might need it.
No, I'll just.
For research purposes, look up the Whittemore Party and conscience wigs and cotton wigs. Write that down. This is for your research. We won't get into it. Conscience wigs and cotton wigs. And Whittemore Party, and look up the Kansas-Nebraska Act, and understand the Whittemores are the Europeans here imitating the Moors. That's why it's called the Whittemore Party. In order to hide history, they'll just say the Whigs Party now. But you need to know the real history here. And so they would wear curly wigs. It didn't do the afro really cool, but it was cool stuff. And then they would practice jurisprudence or law. As a matter of fact, in Britain, they still wear the curly wigs, a little more straighter, but to indicate the atomic antenna, because that's what the curly hair is. It's actually atomic interstellar antennas. These beings are transceivers, they just don't know it. Now, the deal of it is the splitting of the Whittemore Party, etc., and them agreeing, because remember they were fighting with each other, because many of them come from Vandals. And one of the problems we have with the Vandals of the Khazarians is that they didn't deal with reason, they just murdered people and took their stuff. Yeah, and then they finally come to the agreement that it's not in their interest to keep on fighting when the Moors are falling. They're not qualified to rule. So they started studying our law and agreed to adopt the Constitution. they'll just tell you in history books that some mystery men came to Pennsylvania House and gave them some documents. They don't know who they were. They were in robes, and they don't ever tell you anything else. Mystery men came into the Pennsylvania House.
Lenape.
Yeah, Lenape. Yeah, yeah. And it's not even Lenape. So write this down. It's Renape. It's a R, not L. Renape. Right? And so these Moors came in and taught them government. Do you understand? That's why all of them, Georgia, all of them, and when you go to Washington and you go to the palace and then you go to the obelisk and you'll see all the fezzes with all of the lodges represented around the country, including Muali's fez, who you've been told is Van Banneker. That's Muali's fez. In the glass case there with Bey on it. That black fez, that's Bey, that's Muali's fez. Chief Justice Muali, known in rewritten history as Benjamin Banneker. Do you understand? All right? And he responsibility also with the children of Israel, helping to teach them government. So the Europeans were brought into government. Well, let's get back to Lincoln. So the Whig Party is them practicing law, jurisprudence, science of government. All right? So George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, etc. are not the founding fathers. They were ministers plenipotentiary brought into government under the treaty, guided by Moors, agreeing to government order in harmony with fatwa, law, justice, or what is also known as human principles harmonic with nature, sometimes referred to as common law principles. Are we clear? Okay. Based on Hermetic law, what you know as in all the secret societies you'll hear Hermes Trismegistus. Write that down.
That's right.
Hermes Trismegistus is Hermes Trismegistus. Put in parentheses after that, thought. Thoth. That's who that really is. When they tell you about taught in Hikupta, that they tell you in history is Egypt, Hermes Trismegistus and taught are one and the same. See, this way they hide it from the masses. Are we clear?
And that thought, T-H-O-T.
Are we clear? Or they'll say another colored word will be Tahuti. Are we clear? Same one and the same. So all secret societies learn the truth of divine law and then take oaths not to teach the masses. They get beliefs. They get dogma in the name of realigning with their forefathers, which is what religion is. And so the masses actually go into confusion, trying to be good, hating each other, even in the same family, and wondering why they can't get together. What we really need to do is come together and pray. And yeah, P-R-E-Y. For the masses, and the priesthood got P-R-A-Y. And they do different things, almost like opposites. But the masses don't know word cast. Do you understand? But anyway, back to point. So it took about a 10-year span, and February the 2nd, 1871, they didn't exactly come out of the closet, but they got all of their background work done. Are we clear? And that is known as the Organic Act of Congress, 1871. That 10-year span between March the 27th of 1861, then they got rid of Lincoln. They closed the Bureau of Refugees, Freedmen, and Abandoned Lands. Now you understand why Martin Luther King says, "My people are refugees on their own land."
Islam,
He broke his Masonic oath when he said that.
Yes, he did.
So he was done.
Yes, sir.
Do you understand? And most people miss it. You know, because he knows that this is Morocco. All Masons do, once they get past 18 degrees. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Which is why that triangle and that fez is their two most important symbols and tools. Are we clear?
Okay.
And all of their lodges, don't matter whether they're Asiatic or European, all their lodges got Moorish names. And for those of you who need to study, go right there to George Washington Museum. I think they hit it now because more and more people are getting awake.
Yeah.
They got 2 pillars of stone with the names of all the Moorish rulers here in the Americas and the names of the lodges.
I think it's there. I think
They moved it,
Yeah.
and they moved the picture of the president of Mexico of 1857 with his fez on with Allah and jewels on it, because they don't want people to know that Mexico is also part of the Moroccan Empire.
Come on.
Do you understand? And this is why, like, when you see, like, Noble Drawley in the Quran, Circle 7, when he talks about the estate, and he says North America, Central America, South America, and then he interjects including Mexico.
Including Mexico.
That was a code.
That's right.
Now listen, if you say North America, Central America, you already said Mexico, didn't you?
That's right.
So why do you say North America, Central America, and South America, including Mexico, when it's obvious not separate? He just gave you the code for the center of civilization.
That's right.
That all scholars know, except for the common people.
Come on.
So when they're looking for Hikupta, they keep looking on that side.
A killer.
All of the real scholars of the world knows it's the Yucatan.
That's right.
Old Amexem called Olmec.
Islam. So question.
Do you understand?
Gotta jump in here, Taj.
I'm just throwing stuff at you so for your research. Go ahead.
Here we go.
Go ahead. Have fun.
Then why
Then why?
are we trying to build the wall?
The wall should have been built in 1492. However, since it wasn't, let's just go to the point. Now, if you really study the Knights Templar, known as Donald Trump,
Islam.
and you know the history of the Knights Templar and the problem they had with the popes of Rome,
That's right. Betrayed them.
you kind of know the rift that the masses don't know of the past. That just because it's that past don't mean the shit's over.
Islam.
All right. Then you got the issue. Don't forget. Then you got the issue of him assigned. Let me give you some more politics for you all who don't know.
Please. Come on, Chuck.
Since the Jesuits marked John Kennedy for removal because he attacked the Jesuit order of the kingship oligarchy and their abrogation of Article 1, Section 10. And I think the executive order is numbered, you can do the research, because I don't want to tell any falsehoods.
11.
I think the number is 00011 or something like that, executive order, and that would restore the gold standard.
That's right.
And then those gold notes, those notes that Kennedy had printed, I think many of them are up in Passaic, New Jersey, in garages, if they didn't burn them somewhere around there, and they've been in there since before they killed Kennedy. And that would have gotten rid of the Jesuit order of the Khazarians running the banking system.
That's right.
So they murdered Kennedy in daylight to send a signal to the rest of them. All right. That's one of the major reasons they killed Kennedy. Let's get that clear.
That's right.
Back to what I just showed you earlier.
That's right.
That gold coin.
Yeah, that goes.
He was bringing it back.
Yeah. For all them good congressmen and senators that you think don't know, because I know they're looking at us in China while we're talking too.
They're looking right here too, Chuck.
Y'all know this is why y'all killed Kennedy.
Executive order 1110.
And so all the marching Negro leader guys faking that they ain't Masons know it too. Pumping on their own people the 14th Amendment stock option, making them think they were citizens. of the corporation in Austria pumping that it's a country. Where was I at? Anyway, so the Republicans are just simply the Republican. That's why they don't really support Trump, because they're really not Republicans. Some people like to call them rhinos among themselves.
That's right.
In other words, the whole platform is corrupt from day one, since 1871.
It's de facto.
It's de facto.
Yeah.
Distinguished from de jure.
No.
Problem. They figured out, and it's somewhat true, that Trump was over here.
Yes, sure. Yeah.
That's why the Republican Party won't support him, and why they've been faking. You ever notice that the Republicans have always been extremely reluctant to come to Trump's support with all these attacks being made on him? They don't even, as a matter of fact, because of what's going on around the world, just recently they started talking about, well, you know, this is not a fair process and they really didn't have a vote and therefore it's unconstitutional. It has to do with more of a storm that's coming among the people starting to look at this stuff and starting to study this stuff and starting to complain. Because some of them want to come back in office too, and then some of them might get stuck with these pitchforks that might at any moment start coming down to them when these people really start figuring out what's really going on. It's sort of like what Bush Jr. and Hillary said before. I think Senior said that too. If these people ever find out what we've done to this country, they will be strung up on the ropes or something like that.
Islam.
Because they already know that they're criminals. So they're transferring it, what they have actually done, onto Trump. I'm not defending Trump, because he's a made man too. But I'm just saying, that's why they really mad at Trump. So the masses looking at mainstream news, those who really know government, know that's the real reason. Because he's been pumping out of his mouth every once in a while, Republic. That wasn't a slip-up. That was not and is not a slip-up. It's just that he doesn't have the support of the masses. So he still has to be careful because they want to kill him and his family.
Quickly. He's also pumping out 14th Amendment. He's also pumping out citizenship.
And let's talk about the wall. Anybody and their dog knows that many of your underground dumps, and they call them dumps, which are military-based cities, that many of the organ transplants for a lot of the wealthy around the world, most of the European nations, take place right along that border in your southeast states areas and come in under tunnels from Mexico to Texas and in that area. And many of your drugs controlled by many of your European 13 family members comes across that border, always has.
Islam.
Right?
Islam.
Now, when Trump, you notice how they keep talking about Trump's wall as if that wall wasn't there? And it's not justifying the wall, but the wall has more to do with them stealing parts of Mexico and Khalifa's land and then making this artificial border. Now that's a totally different argument. But in principle, jurisdictional principle, if the governing body was legitimate, Trump is correct. But the real deal is that was one of the things that the world governments commanded that Trump do after they put him in office. Because Trump was not so much elected as the people think he was. He was placed.
So like that.
No, you can kind of look at Obama as being the last from the organized operations of the collapsed shell United States corporation.
Okay.
And Obama's tail end of his operations and Trump's missionary work is dismantling the Caesarian operations of the Federal Reserve operations of the order of the popes of Rome that is destroying the planet and destroying the world, and they have no choice. Now, put this together. Since they murdered for mental entrainment effect upon the people, John F. Kennedy in Dallas, Lone Star State.
Yeah.
Symbols, Lone Star State.
And it's 5 points too.
All right. And you have a few domes down there too.
Islam.
Today. Allah's Moors, Alamo.
Islam.
All right. Oh, yeah. All this is significant. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Many of the generals and admirals who have been systematically removed from the different branches of service under the United States jurisdiction, who would not go along with the programming to continue the support of the kingship oligarchy, were fired or removed.
Islam.
Since from Johnson on up to Obama administration. Are we clear?
Islam.
Many of them who are forgotten by the many masses have been organizing in the background with others to build their strength to fix this issue and restore the republic since the murder of John F. Kennedy. So it's been underground stuff. With Trump, it's coming to the surface. Masons know it, politicians know it, the masses don't. Are we clear? What I just told you, if you look at that, you'll understand the politics, including this mysterious person who keeps showing up that kind of indicates that John Kennedy's son didn't die in that plane. And he's part of it too. Vengeance for his father. This is the civil war you see going on with them against Donald Trump. And we could go deeper than that, but that's surface enough for you. Give it a mic, and I'm going to get back to you. Did I kind of semi-answer?
You did.
All right.
Islam, with that being said, even though these things are being done by those who placed Donald Trump in position in order to correct these things with regard to the republic, it still doesn't say that they're recognizing the Moors as the rightful owners of
now remember
the state, and there'll be a restoration.
Right.
Yeah, I
let's do this. I just told you the tail end of Obama's administration and Trump's assignment. And I'm going to get to that fence again, that wall. This is why when Obama went to the Qubta, he exposed that the American Constitution comes from Muslim law.
Right.
Then, when they took pictures of him, he showed the Al-Moroccan flag, and they cropped out the trading banner that the masses have been trained to think is, quote unquote, the American flag, which it is not, was not, never will be. Do you understand? It's a trading banner. They don't know the difference between Star-Spangled Banner and a flag of a nation state because they've been entrained. The adults are children. Meaning that you can show that to a child and a child can see it when adults don't. So just again, this is old stuff. All of you pull up on your phone right now, just talk to your phone because your phones talk back to you. Because you're chipped. You're chipped through your phone, so don't worry about being chipped because you're already chipped. No, just being honest with you. Just talk to your phone and say, Barack H. Obama and the Moorish flag. And then it'll also show you Daughter of American Revolution, Hillary Clinton speaking from the Benjamin Franklin room, who was Minister Plenipotentiary under the treaty, which Obama mentioned, the world's longest running treaty, the Treaty of Peace and Friendship between Morocco and Great Britain, i.e. the United States Corporation colony. Do you understand? And then he's Muslim, so that's why you see them always sneaking in. Oh, he's Muslim, he ain't got no business being president and shit, and all that stuff, right? And the whole Constitution is Muslim law. This is funny. But this is the deal. So he exposes that American Constitution, which it is because it's really Al-Moroccan. American is Moroccan. And he shows the star. So how many show the picture that comes up so you can see for yourself? Move your camera. So you can't say it's not, you don't see it. We're not saying that the masses, because remember, masses are blind.
5-pointed green star.
Oh, that's it. The red flag with the 5-pointed green star in the center. And you'll see her wearing a red dress and you see the red car. All those are signals. And it ain't Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. You understand what I'm saying? These are signals. That's his job. Remember this? Remember when they were roasting Obama? And he was all humorous and everything. He was talking like this and they was roasting him, saying all kinds of stuff. And then he did this number.
Right, drop the mic.
Meaning it's over. That's what he signaled. Then he went and played golf. And he said, Obama ain't really taking care of government and shit. He's going to play golf. You know, but that's for people who don't understand what's really going on. But the signals are for those who know in the real world governance. Now, he did his job. So he, because it's over. Now you got a Knights Templar coming in who has one mission, not to argue with these people, to start dismantling the network. That's his focus. That's Donald J. Trump. Oh, he's a businessman. He's not a politician. Well, you get absolutely right. That's why he's in there. Oh, he just deals with bankruptcy. Well, that's why he's in there.
Islam.
You understand? The dummies don't get it, those who know do. And it's sort of like you don't have the time to argue with the dummies. Work has to be done in spite of them. So somebody got to keep the dummies at bay while the work is being done on their behalf. They can't damn swim. You throw them a life raft, backstroking in the river, something like that. I can swim. Right? The water's cold and stuff. You get halfway across the river because you're showing off, standing on the shore. Right? Start coughing. Let me turn around and try to stroke. Tide going this way, you stroking the tide. And it's good. You going like this and the tide's going like this. You can't do that too long. So you come past and you have compassion. You say, damn, you think that their brother's in trouble? He looks like he's trying to swim forward, but he seems to be going backwards and out. Throw the rope out there. Get the life raft and stuff. Right? And you throw the rope out there and you say, wait a minute. I got my baby's little floater in the trunk here and throw this on there. And you throw it out there. And he said, oh, thank you, Jesus, the Lord of God, and Buddha and stuff. Thank you. I'm saving you. Grab the life, and he grabbed raft and the little floating duck and stuff, and he goes, wait a minute. This thing is purple. It's my religion. Y'all got nerves throwing the purple life raft out here. And that's pretty much like it is when you give people the truth to save them from BS and it doesn't match their beliefs. They reject the life raft because they don't know their life is at stake. And there ain't no time to be arguing about your damn religion and your beliefs. That ain't got a damn thing to do with reality. Just because you're under entrainment and don't know it. So those who have the governance plan that don't have time to play with people that are steeped in belief systems think they got a direct relationship with Jesus because they got a new iPhone. And they got his number in a personal relationship. Well, they convinced themselves of that, but in the real world, not really. But however, and you don't have time to argue with people like that. You have work to do. So they're going to be in disagreement, they're going to be mad at you, they're going to throw their old stinky sneaks at you. Not the new ones, but they're old stinky. You just got to learn to duck and get the work done. But anyway, go ahead, Doc.
So I just want to make sure I keep you on track and make sure that you do address that one point that we said you would with regard to those who have been put in position for one reason or another, past and present, to disrupt the Moorish Divine National Movement.
Oh, and this is for you all. You know what I'm going to do in the future? And this is, again, why we need to get together. Because one of the things I'm going to get the FBI papers out and get enough of the key pieces with the redactions and go, instead of talking about them, go through them, and you're going to film them close so that people can see the FBI papers of the infiltration of the Moorish Divine and National Movement, including the papers of the history of American religions that's registered in Washington, D.C., that shows the Temple of Islam, which is a break-off of the Moorish movement, which becomes the Nation of Islam, and people don't know that. You know, and so they think those things are just circumstantial, separate, including Father Daddy Grace in his Egyptian garb, and the rest of them, they're all of the club members.
That's right.
You know, and these people keep thinking that only Noble Drew Ali, you know, is the order of restoring this thing as if these other guys didn't know this stuff. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And it'll become this is one of the things that's going to become clear, which I've said to you all before. And the reason I always try to do the best I can to maintain and to share the documents with people over the years is because I know that the dark side will always be telling these people that I'm making this stuff up and that I'm lying, this is Tajiite stuff. So I give them the documents. You know, and that's why years ago I even went to Chicago, to Cook County, to the library, and even got microfilm. You know, including and not limited to me having direct contact with Grand Sheik Eel in Newark, New Jersey, where Drew Ali founded this operation, who maintained the Moorish Holy Temple of Science on Court Street in Newark, New Jersey, who is the one who gave me his own Quran and the charter of the wall, and that's the first time he met me. He said, because I know you're going to do something with it. Including the Moorish Holy Temple of Science and the Moorish Science Temple of America bylaws and directory in the same book. That's the first time I've seen that, you know, and plus he told me a lot of the history about the sellout. That's the first time I've seen him, last time I've seen him. However, the deal is a lot of youth coming into this movement, and I'm new too, you know, in relationship to the movement in that sense of the word, but I've had a lot of experiences, you know, by, for whatever reasons, always having, by whatever circumstances, the experience of always being in the inner circles of many organizations. And discovering they were just trying to use me for my intelligence, not because they liked me, trying to shut me up. And I finally figured that out, which is why I founded the Round Table. Nevertheless, I discovered that most people's concepts are wrong. The other deal is, with the FBI, like say for instance, if we had the time and we were doing a class here, we need to do a workshop like that and film it for history's sake. And we put before all of you the FBI papers with the redactions. Redactions is where they black stuff out.
Yeah.
Right? With the redactions, people that don't know anything at all can say, damn. With the redactions, there's enough information that can make you see the sellout. And one of the things that you will recognize is that the decision was made with the FBI and the CIA that the movement was too strong for them to control and to split up. It was too strong. It would be easier for them to place people strategically in authoritative positions with the aim of suppressing the national side of this movement in any civic instruction whatsoever. This is why you'll hear grand governors and grand sheiks in the Moorish Science Temple of America only focus on the 1928 adoption of the religious affidavit and tell the people that this is a religious organization only. Do not talk anything about that Constitution. You're going to get people killed. You're a devil. You're lying. And Drew Ali never taught civics. Microfilm, fact, Drew Ali registered the Moorish Holy Temple of Science as a civic organization. And as a matter of fact, Marcus Garvey, who taught civics absolutely and structure of government, worked with Noble Drew Ali. They worked together, teaching government. And all of this evident in the FBI papers, that their strategy was that if the movement was too strong, they could not dissemble it. It would be easier to place people strategically in positions of authority. And that era is what's called the Great Sellout. That people say the Great Sellout and give you no details. That's it. Are we clear? Clear. And a lot of the schism that you see taking place, where you see people come on videos talking about Taji's lying, and he's causing people to get killed talking about constitutions, and we don't teach that constitutional stuff. You know, and he's lying on the prophet and lying on the movement and trying to undermine the temple, telling the people that the nationality card is a diversity instrument, which it is not. The nationality card is a diversity instrument. You know, as soon as you, and when you, for those, and this is again, this is why we got to do a video, because this can't be done in one class. And then plus it'll go out around the world and do its work. When you read the divine warning by the prophet for the nations, and that's plural, right? So that's immediately indicating that it's an international address.
Islam.
An address of diversity, correct? And he'll say in the first paragraph, if the Greeks, and the Italians, and the Germans, and he'll go through all the different nations, must answer up to that constitution, why not you? That's a diversity argument. Then he'll say in the middle of it, he'll say, help me in my great missionary work to bring my people back into the constitutional fold of government, enforcing our Constitution for the United States of America, which is a civic statement, and they will lie publicly, openly, harshly, vehemently, angrily, and say that I lied. And that's the prophet's words. You understand? Sure. And constitutional instruction is called civics, which is the science of government and the duties and responsibilities in relationship to magistrate and subject, or government and the governed.
The prophet humanity pamphlet.
The
The prophet humanity pamphlet.
Wait, hold on.
Oh, there you go, Doc.
The statements earlier, was that from the prophet's humanity pamphlet?
Yes, the one that they call the literature, the general literature, where it talks about the prophets, divine warning by the prophet for the nation, and also the historic, the Moorish leaders' historic message to America. And that you will see that he registered the Moorish Temple of Science as a civic organization. And then you'll see on the back, on the questionnaire, where it says the Moorish Temple of Science adopted as its corporate name the Moorish Science Temple of America, which tells you that it still exists. But its corporate operations is under the Moorish Science Temple of America. And you know, with that evidence right there in people's faces, they still get away with telling people that there's no civics operating in this order. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? So if you're a reporter from anywhere around the world, this is again, logically, when people come into this movement, why it creates a lot of confusion when the leaders are telling them exactly the opposite. But, and this is back to the other issue, because of the social media, which was also being used to entrain people, is also making people aware of certain things. They're becoming knowledgeable, and they themselves can see the conflict. And so those who are really enemies of the prophet but are governing, this is why they attack anybody like me, because once the people look at the documents and get out of the emotions of it, the documents themselves tell you who's who. You don't need to argue. You don't need to listen to me or anyone. They will tell you what's up.
Absolutely.
So here's the prophet, Noble Drawley, that these people claim to love and claim to be running these more science temples on behalf of, who are against constitutional enforcement. When the prophet says, that's the heart of the movement, enforcing that constitution. Total contradiction. So to distort, they'll say, Taj is lying, getting the people killed, just because the Romans are resisting, because it's killing their bond system, because the heirs are speaking up, finally. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? The problem of it is they disallow that instruction to be in the temples where it should be. This is also why they disallow any of the millions of dollars that they've taken from the people over the years in the name of this fund, that fund, and everything. Is why they disallow the newspaper to be reestablished, that the prophet said was our most powerful weapon. They make sure there will be no more strife. Do you understand? That's why they won't read that letter that the prophet commanded to be read before every meeting, which implies the infiltration. You know, and they'll say, I said that, just because I published it. I got that from Grand Sheik Il in Newark, New Jersey, and also from Elijah Neal Bey, Assistant Grand Sheik, Temple Number 10 in Camden, who also pulled me aside, you know, and gave me a lot of stuff that he would not do openly because the other members would not want him to reveal certain things. But he trusted in my spirit and gave me things that otherwise I wouldn't have got. Do you understand?
Understood.
So, and of course, I'm not a good refrigerator.
That's right.
So,
Old statements and prophecies.
Go ahead.
I'm going to go with number 161. The Holy Prophet said, I'm not going to wake up all the Asiatics at once because they may tear up something.
well, that's true too. But let's talk about what that something is. It also might be some of them triggers within. Maybe that's why they made a Taji God. You know, see, because they come in, many come in, they don't have that ego agenda, and they're looking at the nobility of this movement contaminated by these people, and they look at the suffering of their families. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And it's totally contrary to the promise made by all this nation talk, nation of this and nation of that, and self-determination, and they see none of it. And then all of a sudden, we're out here teaching people how it works. That makes them kind of independent of us and them too. So now that takes their hands out of their pockets, you know. And
That's it.
And then they start talking about subjects that they ain't supposed to be talking about, something like government and the restoration of Article 3 courts that Dwight D. Eisenhower shut down, so that the nationality cards could not be activated in 1954, and promoted the marching Negro reverends who were taking positions in the Moorish Science Temple of America. And then, as a matter of fact, a brother, this is interesting. Oh, I gotta show this to you too.
Come on.
I got a text today. And a brother texted me and says, with a question. In a certain book that it was assumed that I wrote, which I didn't.
Right.
but people associate with me because of some other people.
All right.
And on line 7, somewhere, something like that, paragraph 7. Anyway, it says, anyone who activates consular court is putting us back under the Negro type thing.
Oh, come on.
Oh, yes.
Stop.
Oh, yes. Oh. Hold on. Oh, yes. Anyway, so what I did respond, because I don't have a lot of time, but I did text back to, and then, but I also sent the same text to headquarters in Chicago, to the Grand Sheiks in Chicago headquarters of the Moorish Science Temple of America. And they texted me back, which I was showing Dr. Naila, because they already know a lot of these Grand Sheiks are against me. But they texted me back from Chicago and say, we got your back. We support you, we know what you're doing, and we're going to work together and stuff like that. Because a lot of them can't come out because they'll get attacked too.
That's right.
But don't think that everybody in the temples, from headquarters down, is against constitutional enforcement just because you see a lot of these Grand Sheiks and Sheikas that's coming out talking against constitutional enforcement and the Kunst report.
Islam.
Do you understand?
Islam.
A lot of them know that that is the operation of diversity, but they're not out on the circuit because they will get attacked too. Some people, just because we got alligator balls, don't mean they do.
Right, Islam.
Everybody don't have courage.
They don't have courage.
They say they love the prophet, but when the war comes,
they run and hide.
Wait a minute, this lunch? The oodles and noodles are boiling. Right back to the battlefields.
Oral statements and prophecy.
Go ahead.
Of Prophet Noble Drew Ali.
Go ahead.
Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali.
Yeah.
The Holy Prophet said, this is 161, 160. Sister A. Brown L. of Temple number 4, number 25 said, the Holy Prophet said, your nationality card is going to change on you in your pocket.
Well, it means your concept about what it is will change. Because they were told by the Grand Sheiks and Grand Governors in the Moorish Science Temple of America that that was a religious card.
Islam.
It's a nationality and identification card of diversity of nationality for the purposes of enforcing Article 3, Section 2 of that Constitution for the United States, making the distinction between nationals and property under the Negroes Acts.
It also makes a distinction of
There you
solo proprio
Oh, thank you so much.
and
It's called,
suheritis.
well, is it in propria persona? Then he say, if you don't believe that the program that I have for redemption of my people and the citizens is correct, or is right, go to those in the law.
Islam.
And then they tell people, Jawali, then support that law stuff, that's that Taji out stuff. And the deal of, so in law, so the prophet said, how did the prophet, right, begin to uplift the Moorish Americans? Answer, by teaching them to be themselves. So in law, what is the law phrase and term for people who are being themselves? In propria persona.
That's right.
And what did them Grand Sheiks say? Taji guys making that stuff up. He's contrary to the temple. He's against the temple. No, we're qualifying these people to take their places among the affairs of men. That's also a little example of the counter COINTELPRO operations that exist in this movement. And until people study law, they get caught in the emotion of it because they don't know how to look at it. Go ahead.
De jure and de facto. Let's go with de jure and de facto real quick, Thomas.
Yes.
Let's talk about this Constitution. A change made from for to of, and the whole concept, the whole presentment that there's two constitutions and the old one is dead. I yield the floor.
All right. You know what? And you know what I learned too? Now, I have to be surprised. Now, most of the stuff, I've heard a lot of stuff. and I've been around. They caught me by surprise after we did the memorial walk.
Yeah.
And they had the wolves around me on that table out there in Majestic Hall on Ollie Avenue in Philadelphia. You know, I learned that I knew about it in principle, but to hear them admit to it, first time I heard it, they called the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, all of the operations that Noble Drew Ali did before 1928, the dead arm of the Moorish movement. That's the first time I heard them say that openly. They were doing that while attacking me. Whether it slipped or not, you know, they shouldn't have said that around me. But although I already knew that was their operation, I was surprised to hear it.
Understood.
But I guess they took the position, ain't no use to hide from me, because they know who I am. They know I've never hidden where I stand. But for them to say that confirmed everything of who they really are. And I think, you know, a lot of times when people are arrogant, they say certain things thinking they're attacking you when they really expose themselves and don't, too arrogant to recognize they just exposed their hand. They're looking at this gang of brothers, grand sheiks, all around Taji guy sitting at the table eating his little food, and thought they would intimidate me. Of course, you already know me. Please. Yep, in my mind, I was laughing at these drunk kindergartners. Really? I mean, in my mind, that's what I was thinking of. Except for a few of them that I know is honorable.
So they call the work of
the civic side of this Moorish movement the dead arm of the movement. Write that down and remember it. And share it out. Because most of the stuff, you know, I've heard a lot of stuff. But they were so mad at me, they slipped up and let me hear that. You know, like, the anger, the anger and the bitterness towards me was so thick that you could feel it. Like a thick air, smiling like Chessy cats.
And you sitting in the middle of them. You're sitting in the middle.
They invited me also on the other. They sent about 3 emissaries at 3 different times. You were invited over on the other side of the hall at the table over there. And he was standing around, you know, the sashes, you know, the game. Like I wasn't going to go over there? Yeah. Don't invite me. Yeah. I'll get in the ring. You understand what I'm saying? But yes. I could smell that they thought I'd be intimidated.
Right.
You know, I picked up my plate and my ginger ale.
Come on.
In the corner. Sat down, while I'm sitting here, then they all stood up all around the table like in a big circle, casting spells. Yeah, they don't know. They don't know Frankie was sitting at the table. Eating my stuff, and they started their spiel and everything. But I knew a couple of them were honorable.
All right.
You know, led by one, you know, one main major speaker wolf.
I already got it.
It was funny. It was like funny. And I was thinking, because I'm trying to, in my mind, give them honor and respect. And in my mind, I'm thinking, you drunk kindergartners have no idea the energy that sits before them.
Islam.
More dangerous than they think it is.
Islam.
But I don't use it negatively.
Islam.
Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Yeah.
And I don't want to go there. You know what I mean? But it was interesting. And they were so angry because they wasn't affecting me. You know, because it didn't stop there, it went outside. Oh yeah, and continued. That's the dead arm of the movement.
Old Canaanite temple.
Yes, anything civic. You know, it's like they couldn't get to me, and they trying to, you know, all the spells, I could feel the energy, I could feel the psychic attacks, and I'm like, because I'm so far beyond that. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Right, right.
That, and that's not an arrogant statement, don't misunderstand me.
We got it.
And this stuff is just bouncing off me, and I'm thinking to myself, don't they know yet? You know what I mean? And it's almost like, you ain't piercing here. What? Save your ammo.
Did you say anything back? Did you say it's a divine and national movement? And then haven't defined the national.
And they real, you know, they got, the Speaker Wolf. When we're outside.
That's the CIA.
And, I said the word jurisdiction.
No, God.
Horns came out. Visible. Visible horns.
You can't say that. These people don't know what that is. You can't say it.
I'm thinking he's an Alice also. In my mind, you know. And they really got angry. Really? Angry. I mean, I was angry.
And I couldn't. That's me.
You know, and so I talked until it was late, and one of the grand sheiks came to me, and he says, and he looked at me and he says, this gotta be preserved. They're gonna do an interview with me outside of that whole venue. He says, this must be preserved. This is precious. And they just don't get it. I said, they get it. They know exactly what they're doing. You know exactly who I am. There are no accidents, and they make no mistakes.
It's mine.
I said, we'll deal with it. He said, look, we gotta get together. So, you know, I just happened to have one of my flash drives. I said, don't ask me any questions, just take this and go study. And so you come, and we do the radio, and we do the show, whatever you're gonna do.
Yeah.
I said, you'll know where I'm coming from. You don't have to guess.
It's mine.
But anyway, that's in the future.
It's mine.
But the deal of it is, it's sort of like, you know how when somebody attacks you with such anger,
Make you laugh.
and you don't show that vile spirit back to them, and they get angrier,
Vitriol.
they get angrier,
Yeah.
and then try to say things to provoke you, and they get angrier because that's pretty much what that was. Part of what y'all didn't see. And that slipped up and said,
Dead on.
that's the dead arm of the movie.
Wow.
Figuring I'm really gonna get mad now. Meaning they was telling me who they were. Now what you gonna do? Because we outnumber you. Type.
Right.
That's what the signification was.
Right.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do.
Like, Tom, you guys, please. Give me a whole package of them in the ring one time.
It's mine.
And in between battles, like we've been saying, you know, got more peanut butter sandwiches out there.
Yeah.
Please. Drunk kindergartners, that's how I looked at most of them. But a few was on there because I could read through them, you know. So I'm not condemning them. I'm just telling you all the experience part that you can see. So they try to show the part that they told Taj the guy off. They got him straight. Yeah, please. Police.
Constitution, Taj.
Okay, brother, let's get off that stupid.
Is your de facto.
But the jure de facto, looking like this, and you know we started it before, right? Real, and this is redundant. As far as government is concerned, the operations here, right? Republic. Democracy. Real. Fake.
Islam.
Actual. Color.
Allodial. Feudal.
Allodial. Feudal.
Yeah.
Just. Unjust.
Islam.
Fair. Unfair. Due process. No due process. Do some synonym work in your thesaurus or in your word books and etymology books. Do some synonyms and follow down for your self-instruction. These are basically opposites. Are we clear?
Clear. Clear. Yeah.
All right, now, all right.
Oh, you want to
Here's
erase
another
that? No,
one. Here we go.
don't erase that yet. Oh, okay. Want to take a picture?
And follow through. See, so, and this back to, in your proper person, you're presented. Not in your proper person, you're represented.
That's
Right?
Oh.
And of course, you can deal with money,
That's right.
fiat.
That's right.
Oh, okay.
Private commercial payment
Private
security.
commercial bank.
Right, yes.
Federal Reserve.
All right, all of those categories. And so follow through, and we used to pass out some of the a couple of pages from the superliminal that we used to give people that had a long list of these synonyms, antonyms, and things like that, and so that people could look at these variances and even with more expanded synonyms, so that the people could get a clear perspective of actually what they're dealing with. And then what you discover is that people mix these language, the connotative with the real, and because of training, and often don't know how to properly write writs and to make arguments because they don't know that they're dealing with connotative linguistics designed to control them. Because they think they are educated, which they are educated, but they don't know that's animal training.
Clear.
So we're getting a lot of, we get feedback online, and I'm writing writs, and the remedy I'm wanting is not happening, and we're looking at the writs, and we're seeing a writ presented with both de jure and de facto.
Mm-hmm.
And my propositional statement is this, and then you can expand on it.
Mm-hmm.
When you mix de jure and de facto in your writ, it is the equivalent of desiring fresh water, but somebody in your glass put 2 tablespoons of salt in it.
Yes.
And it kills the writ.
Yes. And put it this way. If it has enough de jure structure, it is still toxic to the lie.
Islam.
Even though,
yeah.
even though contaminated, it's still meaning that a little bit of truth kills a lot of lie.
Clear.
Islam.
And that's not a justification, but what you said is absolutely correct. And this is why the study must continue, and why they say what they sometimes refer to as the refiner's soap must be always in hand.
So here's what we're presenting.
Because you're whether when we say that you're is plural for us all, are fighting an extremely well organized and entrenched dark priesthood who have been presented as preachers of the light when they're actually the opposite. And so you have the problem of the leadership actually being the dark side, and so the people seek solace in them, not knowing that they're actually serving themselves up.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then by them not really understanding the connotative linguistic operations of the Phoenix operations by design, of which these people are a part.
Yeah.
With these other people who are actually foreigners who they think are Americans, and their government have been setting upon them for generations. And then they go up against them to speak of rights that are organizationally suppressed under feudal law. Other issue. Those who make those statements often take the position of what you call attacking the victim. You tell the truth and Rome attacks you, therefore you're wrong. As if you're not supposed to get resistance when you resist Rome. And they'll say things like, or they're going to get you in trouble, they're going to get you killed. What they're really saying is, you don't have a right to make our master angry. That's their safe way of saying it. So it looks like they're being legitimate. And then they'll attack you and not the master. Or for instance, like when they murdered Freddie Gray.
Okay.
Many of people will talk about what Freddie did wrong to get himself murdered.
Right.
When they murdered that brother in New York for selling cigarettes.
Ghana.
And they later killed his daughter too, saying that she had a heart attack or something. Like they murdered her too, because she started working towards getting justice for him, not knowing that Negro Acts are in operation. They killed her too. I think that was last year, something like that.
That's right.
Yeah. But the deal of it is, you'll see his name all over the place, see her name all over the place. You won't see them name any of them unum sanctum policy enforcers. You won't see one of their names up or their family names.
Islam.
You will see them not criticizing any one of them.
Check.
You know, you'll see different Moors and others who stand up for constitutional principles, and the Europeans will attack them, and you'll see them attack me, them, anybody who enforces the Constitution. You'll never see them mention once the names of any of them, policemen, fake sheriffs, administrators of the corporate operators of Darby or Philadelphia Corporation. Not once. You'll never see them talk about their equity bonds. You'll never see them come up and try to help any Moorish Americans or any of the people in the community. If they say anything, you'll hear them make statements like, let us pray. That type of thing, and let's go march somewhere.
Check.
You know, and say, you know, don't be talking about that constitutional stuff, that'll get you in trouble. When it's actually they were put in position to enforce that law. Their positions, they were put in position to enforce that law.
Islam. The whole piece of time we want to say, we teach that this whole thing is founded on, like you say, connotative linguistics, semantic deceit that yields plausible deniability.
Exactly. So this is why you'll see them talk about, like say for instance, when they murder, like when they went to that sister's house and shot her and her baby.
Her baby, yeah.
Right? For exercising stare decisis
Yes.
rights that belong to the people, that the corporate operators for the United States Corporation of Austria, for their bond system, accused her of not having a driver's license and came in her house and shot her and her baby.
That's right.
Do you know how many grand sheiks said that I sent them cops there to shoot her?
I remember that time. It was ugly.
Yes. Grand sheiks of the Moorish Science Temple of America said that Taj Tarik Bey sent them cops to shoot that sister.
That's heavy, man.
They never mentioned any of those cops' names.
Come on, teach right there.
Yes, they did. Members of the Moorish Science Temple said that Taj Tarik Bey sent them cops to shoot that sister.
How did they figure that? How did it?
Yes, they did. Mm-hmm.
So give
That sister got more balls than all of them brothers wearing them sashes all over the damn place put together for standing up for constitutional principles. And none of them will mention the fact that the real reason they assassinated that sister is because she won a lawsuit against them. She went against their bonds, and it was costing them, and they were sent out to assassinate her.
We're at war, people.
No, we're not at war. They've been warring on us.
Islam.
Since when have we been going out murdering any of them?
Islam.
And anyone who talks Constitution, these operatives that infiltrated the temple have been telling the people that anyone who speaks of the Constitution is creating terrorist papers.
No, that's true. Paper terrorists.
Understand?
No, that's true.
Not so foreign Europeans, people with turbans and feathers on. Mm-hmm. Yes. See, but the other thing is that enough people around the country and outside this country is waking up. It's not that there's so much waking up outside, it's so much that they're starting to be active because we're finally waking up here. They've been waiting for us to wake up because we're costing the rest of the world by our sleep. Because we're at the hub of this whole thing. Do you understand what I'm saying?
That's right.
And so since we've been active, the rest of the world's been speaking up. And of course, Rome has been accelerating their attack on other nations, but the nations of Asia are coming together. As you can see in the Quran when it says this is the uniting of Asia.
Our brothers
So
from
the
the East.
Asiatics are uniting. And they're no longer funding or floating the bonds. Do you understand? And this is why they're really angry at Trump. And when you see Trump going around the world starting these trade agreements, and people keep saying, you know, why is Trump going around making these trade agreements? That's because all of the other agreements are dead. Do you understand? And people who don't understand what he's doing or what his assignment is are mad at him. He's losing jobs for Americans and stuff. No, because if he doesn't establish trade, because it can't be done just with his administration, it's over for them, like for real.
Taj,
Clear.
You understand? Clear.
as far as the bonds and the currency that's going around in the world now, in India, the guy just came up with his phone and he's trying to make it abroad, worldwide, but right now it's happening in India. They have their own currency system.
This is what they're doing. See, now let's make this clear while you're talking that, so keep this in mind. And you analyze what you said, analyze what I'm saying to you right now, and this can be interjected in future classes, whatever. Currency is not money. Don't equate them. Currency is the bookkeeping principle on the electrical system of the transceiver organic beings called humans, your electrical system, and your energy output, which is also referred to as job, for the masses called job.
Clear.
That's currency measurement of your output and not money. The proper commercial paper that the people have been falsely told is dollar or fiat is not either. It is classified under that category, for the fiat is the declaration of Rome of unum sanctum and the ownership of your estate.
Okay.
The Sister QB Act of 666 is for regulating the Sister QB trusts that are behind the bond system, which is the bondage that has been sold to the nations of the earth. Are we clear?
Clear.
I.e., it is their interest on debt of the dead. The corpse, or the corporate entity operations that are known as the Sister QB trusts, are regulated by the 12th order of the Franciscan Order of Brotherhood, harmonized by what you call the 12 regional districts of the Inquisition operations of Thomas de Torquemada under the Spanish Inquisition against the Moors, now called the IRS, who are the bookkeepers for the United States Corporation Company in Austria, with part of their headquarters in Switzerland. Are we clear?
Say that again, Taj. Just that last piece.
You said it's registered in Austria.
With some more volume. With some more volume, please.
Remember, you got to remember that the masses have been trained since 1871 that the United States is the country that you're standing on. You notice they always say here, born here, here, here. What country is called here? I'm the citizen of here. You know why the vaguity? See, because what? Estados Unidos do Mexico. That's the United States of Mexico. Estados Unidos do Brazil. That's the United States of Brazil. United States of San Salvador. All those are United States of America. That's a political metaphor.
Wow.
This is what Vicente Fox was objecting to at the United Nations when they introduced Clinton as the American president, which was an insult to all of them. Just because these dummies here think it's a country, the rest of the world knows it isn't. It's a corporation of Europeans occupying Morocco. Let's not get this twisted.
That's right. That's right.
Now, point. The operations of the trade of these bond systems is predicated on what is called a credit system against the debt, against the interest layered upon the interest, 10 times over, and then multiplied 10 times above that by the Jesuit order of the Federal Reserve on the dead, and thus the living to the dead, transferring the energy of the living to the dead, the living dead.
Sleep.
The instruments that you have been calling a dollar is a dollar bill. It is a dollar converted and stolen under the Spanish Inquisition, because they came here to steal your gold and then gave you a bill in its place, an absolute moron, oxymoron, and got you to start calling it money, which means you accept the debt. And because it's a measurement of the flow of the currents of the waters and your electrical system, that's current that runs these. And it's currents that run the tide and tell you that's the money. You know, they're talking about shipping bonds. shipping, admiralty, maritime, piracy, arbitrary law, of feudalism, sometimes called democracy.
Come on, with
Mob rule.
Wow.
And then the instruments are presented against the liens, against the Sister V Trust, called bonds. And the presentment of the trade is then called credit, which is also not money. Problem with the world: when the nations stop acquiring the bonds for their gold and silver, they've had decades upon decades of robbing the rest of the world too under Unum Sanctum. So what has happened is the world governments stopped accepting the bonds, and it became constipated. And it's called credit freeze, which is how the world really runs. It hasn't been operating on money or currency. It's operating on credit. Now, since it froze up, you got operations called ship to shelf. You see them little lines on them products now when they don't do this no more, the cash register? They go ahead. Check. Check. It's called a SKU. It bookkeeps at a place, Switzerland, and also in Idaho, called the SWIFT system. It gets to a certain number, and orders are made around the world with nations who have been forced with the militaries of the popes of Rome, called the congressional. Write this down because you've got to get this clear. They will tell you the military industrial complex. It is the congressional military.
Yeah.
Industrial complex. That is really the operations of the kingship oligarchy that you've been calling your congressmen and senators, who are making feudal law rules against you to help the United States Corporation Company of members of the Roman Curia to systematically, by generation, drain the blood and the life through the currency operations, making you dead and transferring your wealth, your blood, your energy to the corporate municipal denationalization systems into the coffers of the fake bays called governors.
Come on.
Who answer to the Circle Church and the Chancery at Fleet Street in England and transferred between the Queen of England and the Pope Order of Rome under the Spanish Inquisition to this very day. And not a penny goes to the people, to the streets, to their schooling, or anything else. Are we clear?
Clear.
Well, you can say the world woke up. It's not that they woke up, they was afraid. Because they know as soon as they didn't accept what Skull and Bones like to call petrodollar.
Guns coming.
That they won't get murdered, bombed, everything else, whatever. To save themselves, they have no choice. And so they're no longer buying them. So the kingship oligarchy, who you've been calling the Congress and the senators, they've been pumping those debt notes that they've been fakely calling dollars. Remember, this is the dollar. This is the real. This is the money. None of that stuff is money. They're bookkeeping instruments. They've been packing them in Belgium, in storage farms. They've been packing them in the desert, up here in New Jersey, near tanks and stuff. And there's some stuff they've been packing in the ship that's right there in the port, right there in Philadelphia, that they have to keep cool too. That's another thing that people don't know, that was in that old looking ship that you see right there, right on
Columbus Boulevard.
Yeah.
Christopher Columbus.
That old ship that you see there.
Christopher Columbus.
That's another story that you need to know about in the future. The rest of the world ain't buying it no more just because we're sold out by people here who say they love Noble Drawley and don't, and been running these orders while attacking Taji guy, who's enemies to the prophet. But they've been getting away with it, but the rest of the world is coming to his support. So it doesn't matter what they do anymore. Are we clear? The credit system on the planet is constipated. Therefore, the Khazarian order of the P2 Masons must print more Federal Reserve notes to keep their posts, benches, sometimes called banks, operating at zero by the day, not by the week, not by the month, by the day, to the tune of 89 billion notes that they will admit to a day. And they hide it under the name or word or phrase repo. Are we clear?
Clear.
Now, what it also means is what we've been telling people for the last 7 years. I think House Joint Resolution 4827, something like that. Excuse me if I mix the numbers. Under the guise of employment, they're going to be stealing these people's accounts that they think are their accounts, which is why we've been telling people forever, take your fiat out the banks. Other deal of it is, all of your so-called 401ks and retirement plans and saving plans and all of this other stuff, it's already going. So let's not talk about it's going to go, not be there. It's already going. Social Security, all these funds that they think are separate funds and stuff, these guys already robbed it and been sharing it with the kingship oligarchs that you've been calling your congressmen and senators, which is why all of them are multimillionaires now. There's another reason they're mad at Trump. Because he's been systematically exposing them while they're trying to get him out of office. Are we clear?
Yeah.
Clear.
Yeah. Clear.
Then their wives and their husbands and their cousins at your expense. Are we clear? Which is why they're trying to get rid of Trump. His assignment is to dismantle the system. And I'm not saying, I'm not defending him. I'm just telling you I'm telling you the politics. Are we clear?
Clear.
Now, problem is Trump is only a face of another operation of military and others who've been trying to get back to the Republic, to save themselves, and in doing so, it helps us too.
Right.
However, that's what you see going on. Give Dr. Niola the mic for a minute. Now, what I just told you, if you'll think and watch the politics, you can see it yourself. Once you understand how things work, you don't get caught up in mainstream news. And some of your alternative news either, because they're infiltrated too. But once you understand history, what they say, his story, once you understand the chronology, once you understand the operations that are really taking place, distinguished of what's supposed to be taking place, you'll see more and more of what Trump is doing is leaning to this side. If you're caught in the emotion, you actually think he's the enemy. When all of the Congress and senators are on this side, that's why even some of them Republicans don't support Trump, because they're really demos. Are we clear?
Clear.
Now again, don't get that confused with me endorsing Trump.
Understood.
I'm just looking at the chess pieces.
Right.
And the chess pieces are what they are. Not who I like, not who you like. Chess pieces. See, you can't go into reality of the world with your biases.
That's right.
Are we clear? You can't solve problems if you're biased. All right.
I'm back on if you want to repeat that. You're back on.
You like, oh,
We back on?
If you want to repeat what you said about Brexit, because we died for a moment.
Now, for those in the UK, you know half the people here is out to lunch, but Taji guy talking to you. Consider this. The guy who slipped off was having lunch and started waiting. Yeah. The Whale. That was his nickname. Major trader. And then the other guy on this side, major trader, a couple days separately. They both went out to lunch and slipped off the buildings, type thing. We had a conversation the day before, which they usually do. Look at that as a signal. Yes, the euro and the Jesuits' Federal Reserve note of private commercial paper of debt on debt on debt on debt on debt, fakely trying to convert their private debt of Austria and Switzerland on the people of the land at North America, falsely claiming them to be U.S. citizens and their stock. Well, for the rest of them, in case they don't know, we reject any such statements and that we do not stand as surety for the United States Corporation or any of its subsidiary states of corporate entities, nor their fake debt, contrary to the Constitution for the United States of America and its former and proper de jure Republican form of government in treaty with Morocco, which is the land which has been under occupation, and falsely called U.S. Corporation, although it's Republica el Americanos, it is the Moorish Republic. I know that. And we're heirs of this state. We claim our state. We don't stand for your damn debt.
Islam.
Islam. So tell them to dig up the whale and have a conversation with them. And yes, the euro and the dollar are one and the same. They both come under the jurisdiction of the Circle Church and the Chancery at Fleet Street, England. So just get a little bit of information, and next time you call, text us something, and tell them Taji guy said so. In spite of the grand governors and grand chiefs of the Moorish Science Temple, people are trying to tell people I'm lying. Because I know you all are backing what I'm saying, because you all know what's really up, and you know these people are traitors. It's just that a lot of the members don't know they're traitors yet. But with your help on the outside, send some information and some text to help restore the Republic here, because it's in your interest too. And the people coming into this movement will go clean them people up who they thought loved and overdraw away. The whale. I think I said enough. They're one and the same. Any other questions? I could really use a piece of fish right now. I really got to taste for a piece of fish.
No peanut butter and jelly.
You got me? Anything else? Interjections.
Interjection. I just want to say that as we're going through and, it's a lot of folk are contacting and talking about remedy. We've been devastated. We've been subverted. We've been humiliated. We've been gentrified.
We've been flayed.
Like the whole deal. How, with everything falling, does remedy take place?
All right, let's say this. To those who really don't understand this, and this back also to the UK, right, and the Brexit thing, we know that the masses think that the stock market is an indicator of the economy. The stock market is an indicator of the bond systems of human trafficking and has no relationship to the real world economy whatsoever, never did.
Islam.
Now, understand when their stuff goes bust, guess what? It's kind of light right now. You know, Dr. Naila,
Yeah.
you remember when we went to the depot and we bought the little 6-inch pots
Yes.
and the little plants and stuff like that? I just love this plant. And when I go into the upstairs bathroom, and I put one of the plants in the upstairs. I gave one to my sister, Hadira. She didn't even know I gave it to her. So I came in and I set up in the shelf. She probably discovered. She figured out where it came from. But anyway, let me tell you about my little plant. That little plant, 6-inch pots with a few leaves on it. I'm trying to look for a picture of it. Excuse me. So I put it in the window. Now I busted up the concrete in the basement, and I put new sewer line in. And what I did, I took the dark black dirt from around it and I put it in that pot. I put it in an old green pot, porcelain pot, put that plant in there, right? Plant to the window. She's all the way up to the ceiling over here. She's wrapped over the vanity and curling up the wall here. She's wrapped over to the toilet and crawling onto here up here. If I stretched her out, she'd be 9 feet. About 6 feet up. She's beautiful.
And no matter
And
how
I
many
go
days,
in,
how long did it take for her to grow that long?
Couple months.
Oh, okay.
And I go in there, right? I usually use this arm, put my arm on her, exchange love. And I give her water and stuff, and she's so firm, all the leaves are firm, and she's just so happy, beautiful. Love. Point is, that's life.
That's right. Islam is it?
She didn't stop growing just because the stock market crashed. Go in the yard, right? And all on the fences, the vine is on the fence, and stuff like that. Got lilacs in it and stuff like that, right? It didn't stop growing. Go to stock market. Got this plant that I have to keep chopping down in the middle because it's really healthy. It's got these big elephant leaves type thing. It didn't stop growing. Go to stock market. The dandelions is in there that you can make tea with. And he didn't stop growing. Nobody has to start. They just don't know what food is. The stock market is really their bond system for human trafficking. It hurts them. They're telling you it hurts you. So that you can keep supporting it. It's really the bond system that they have on humans for human trafficking, having nothing to do with the real economy. Donald Trump, let me say this about Donald Trump. Wow, you know why another reason why Donald Trump talking shit? Because he knows what I just now said, that they have no relationship, but he knows that the masses think they do. While that system is being dismantled, he's introducing the people back to the real economy that they're rejecting. I'm going to repeat so they can understand, look at it differently. And again, don't get it twisted. All these guys see he's supporting Donald Trump and shit. Stop. Donald Trump is reintroducing the people to the real economy. Although they got concrete brick brains, while the stock market is dismantling. And going along with the program for 5 minutes, when they say, we're going in this country and sanction them, we're going to fuck them up. He said, yes, that's what we're going to do. And then he goes there, and then a week then they're talking peace and shit.
Exactly.
And they're mad at him again. That's the congressional, not the military industrial complex. That's the congressional military industrial complex. Now you know why they're fighting Donald Trump about that wall. Because that's their trade route for the opium. and the child trafficking. You know how many Mexicans die every year through the child trafficking that comes through there that's controlled by these people that you keep calling the congressmen and senators who are selling children's organs? Oh, no, they're not doing it directly. They got stock in the corporations, which is why all of your major cities, so-called eugenics programs under the Phoenix program, that the people call in the military, that the medical industry are now small cities. You ever notice that? Go to New York, go to Philadelphia. All of those little so-called medical facilities are now small cities. They're so big that they actually have their own police force to guide the traffic.
City.
And cancer is a military biological warfare operation.
Islam.
Where they're getting paid to kill the people off. And they ain't figured it out yet. We talk about the common people. Well, Donald Trump's kind of messing up that program. All of it. Do you notice that no matter how reasonable it is, anything that he does, the entire Congress opposes him? You notice that when they talked about, as an example, the operative named Schiff spoke before Congress and said that Trump was a mafia bully, bullying the leader in Ukraine and holding back monies, they called it monies, funding from him, and they didn't expect Trump to release the papers of the phone call, and it was absolutely, everything he said was a lie, and nobody charged him with that, and no one charged him with treason. And they're still arguing that when all the information is already out that proves him not only that he lied, they're actually openly committing treason against the office of the executive office of the United States. Openly. And no one's even bringing that up. Openly. Do you know why? Because that's how deep the corruption is. And again, I'm not defending Trump. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Islam.
De jure, de facto.
De facto.
More and more, Trump is having to, even if he doesn't want to, stand on his side if he wants to save himself and his family, because he's a target. Meaning he's already stepped over the line, so he can't go back.
Right. Islam.
Now, if he was honest, good. If he wasn't, good. Doesn't matter. It's sort of like, you know how it is, when you, even if, let's take it that he wasn't really serious about making, as they say, America great again. And you know that must be taken with a grain of salt. How about if that was just a campaign slogan, right? He was just saying it, right? Problem is, he's really doing things that really back that up. That's not supposed to happen under the feudal order that's been in operation since 1871. Remember, this is the Organic Act of Congress 1871. Remember what I'm saying that so that you can do your own research.
Right.
The restoration of this is what got Lincoln killed. The restoration of part of this is what got Kennedy killed.
Yep.
The restoration of part of this is why they're against Donald Trump. Whatever else that they're talking about that's bad with these guys, I'm not arguing that. I'm just telling you what their motives are. What the political motives are we clear?
Islam.
Are we clear?
Clear.
Now, people who are caught up in, when they put their personal biases in, they start trying to find fault in Trump's bankrupt businessman. He shouldn't be, they can play all that silly game and not really pay attention to what's really going on.
Islam.
Now, what's wrong with that fence? that was already there, that was deliberately gapped in certain areas where trafficking was coming past all the time. You don't believe it? Talk to some of the people on the border themselves.
Come back and forth all the time.
Everybody that y'all knew that's been a child trafficking and drug trade route since Johnson. Now, look at this. So since Trump had been doing this, repairing this fence and doing stuff, now you're talking jurisdiction, aren't you? Mm-hmm. Now you're talking about the issues of sovereignty between the United States corporation company occupying North America and the legitimate nation state of Americans known as Mexico. So now you're talking about sovereignty. And then you're talking about now this distinction of jurisdiction. So now you have heavy activities that have been going on lately via the consulate in Mexico and the U.S. consulate. Not the American consulate, listen to what I was writing this down.
Come on.
Not the American consulate, because there's no such one.
Islam.
It's the U.S. consulate. But remember, the people here have been muddied with this issue of America and the United States and using it in the same sentence when they don't belong in the same sentence.
Islam.
Do you understand what I'm saying? So now these things, these controversies are working themselves out, and they're getting upset because Trump is unraveling a lot more things than, as you may say, they want unraveled. Not that they wanted any of it unraveled. Right. It's going beyond what is on the surface.
The issue, Taj,
go ahead,
is under the guise of keeping the quote de jure, also people of the land, Mexicans.
This is what's happening also with the OAS. Write that down. Organization of American States. OAS. And also with their attacks that the Khazarians have been making on Venezuela to kill their economy. Because they're also not trading with the U.S. Jesuit dollar bill, petro, anymore, which is really why they're attacking them. So what's happening is, consider this, you all, and Dr. Naila, Tamara,
yes.
All of the private commercial paper known as U.S. dollars, petrodollars, that have been forced upon the people of the Middle East to trade, particularly since Richard Nixon, that disallowed them to sell their oil to anyone, including Venezuela and Mexico, disallowing them to sell their oil to anyone unless they came through the Jesuit order of the Federal Reserve, and then they would have weigh stations by which they would regulate the different debt systems of fiat, of trade. So if you went into one of those jurisdictions, some of them, they would accept the U.S. dollar in trade, even when they wouldn't accept other currencies of neighboring states.
Right.
Now you can't. Are we clear? So all of those Federal Reserve notes that have been forced on other nations to trade for the oil in the Middle East and in Venezuela are coming back home to roost. This is why they've been doing the shelling and saying to the people that the U.S. corporation company is now self-sufficient in oil, producing roughly around 12.8, somewhere in that area, of million barrels of oil a day. Fact. The actual use per day in oil at North America, Central, under the United States jurisdiction is about 21 million. So that's a deficit of almost another half. Does that sound like self-sufficiency?
Not to me.
That's what the shelling is. Hold on. So for every dollar that they refer to of shale oil that comes out of them rocks while they're poisoning the water in the land and creating more cancers, doing it, it costs 4. Meaning the energy output in energy to produce $1 worth of oil costs 4.
Cost four so-called dollars. Yeah.
Hold on. So now they produce 12 point some odd million barrels a day. The use is 21 million. So General Motors were glad when they went on strike because they closed 6 car plants permanently. Do you see the relationship, how things really work, that the average person doesn't understand economics?
It's not.
Clear.
And they're parking cars in the desert that they produce. And they've been producing cars to keep the machinery going that they know damn well the market is saturated.
Can't sell them. It is. Can't sell them.
Same way
There's
China
gonna be
builds
no-
buildings.
Okay. Let's look at this. Watch my car.
Yeah, and they're empty.
Go backwards.
See, got this. See about the paddles and stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Man, this stuff is so refined, we don't use a stick no more, right? Well, you can't, for the most part, most time you can't even go down the street no more than 40, even if it is 65, because it's so congested. So I mean, what makes it feel good, what it could almost do. You can't even find a place to park. They have time. And now the parking is becoming exorbitant. And in all the big cities, because they're losing revenue sources, or what? Now they're raping the people by making the ownership, which is really servitudeship, and borrowing of the vessels that you be thinking is yours, because they do not deliver, write this down, original manufacturer's titles of origins to the people. They give them to the governors of every state who have access through the routing numbers to the Jesuit order of the IRS, and that their cars, the people's cars, have bonds against them. And they give you a certificate of title, which is a certificate that says a title exists that you don't damn have. But since these people can't read, they don't know that a certificate of title is not a title. It's a mask.
That's right.
Which is why the congressman has stock in the insurance companies with his cousin and forces you to buy insurance from his cousin unregulated, or they will take your car that you think is yours, that really is lent to you under sharecropping, under currency.
There you go.
And if you don't buy their insurance, contract in violation of constitutional due process, they force you into contract with what appears to be private corporations. Since when did government have that authority? They'll take the car and lock you up and give you a ticket, which is also known as, write this down, foreign bill of exchange, which is unlawful. Foreign bill of every ticket, stop calling them tickets, they're foreign bills of exchange.
Bill of attainder.
And studying, you can see that you can beat them every time, if you understand that. Another thing I'll tell you, and we'll deal with this in the future, and you do some study on your own. And they like to misrepresent things that I say, so I'll make myself very clear. I'm not giving you legal advice, I'm giving you lawful advice.
Islam.
It's love.
Clear.
When they give you one of them foreign bills of exchange called a ticket, the real process that they don't tell you that you're supposed to do, supposed to send it to the Secretary of State. He sends it back to the unum sanctum policy enforcer, and they have to pay it. You send it with an affidavit. Now you see why it's so important to learn for the people who learn to write writs, Mustafa.
Look, I'm with you when you're right.
Yeah,
It's on.
a little bit more detail, but I'm keeping it simple.
There's more detail for sure. But
The
like you
private
said, you give us
commercial mercenary operators from the gangs of New York that call themselves falsely officers were members of the Fraternal Order of Police with their star in the window, with the grip and the three-tiered castle and the eye, masonry, and act like they don't know, who've been set out upon the people to rob the people for the kingship oligarchs who you've been calling your congressmen and your senators. To issue bills, foreign bills of exchange called traffic tickets, which is really human trafficking extortion instruments, unconstitutionally constructed. I will also ask anyone, and it's particularly these persons who claim to be Grand Sheiks in the Moorish Science Temple of America who've made this asserted effort to try to slander me, Sharon Tracy Bey and others, and Light and others, to prove in the Constitution for the United States where traffic court was established.
Wow.
Come on, John. Come on now.
Now, the judicial branch of government in that Constitution establishes courts, which is one, because all of the judicial powers is vested in one Supreme Court, even on appeal. However, some inferior courts were established to deal with local issues. But the only courts that were established to deal with the issues in controversy for the United States is for ambassadors, diplomats, and consuls, i.e. Consular Court, Article 3, for diversity of nationality. Those are the only courts that was lawfully established. Show me anything else. Show you anything else.
There you go.
Go read it for yourself. And you know how many Grand Sheiks in the Moorish Science Temple told people that I was lying to them and getting them in trouble by saying the word consular. And that made them Negroes. They have the nerve to write that too. And so that they said that they're on the side of the policeman against Taj. And that I was lying and hurting the people. And that the traffic courts were lawful courts established under the Constitution, and that the people should submit to that and not cause confusion. Grand Sheiks in the Moorish Science Temple have been making videos saying those things.
Taj, that's not Grand Sheiks, that's CIA.
We know what it is, but let the people see for themselves. And you know, basically, I don't waste my time with them, but because they ain't hurting me, they're hurting the people. And I'm here for the people. And they're also mad that I won't play games with them. But, however, this is for all of you in this room. All of you are listening, because we already know that they're listening to us in other nation states. Read the Constitution for the United States of America, the judicial powers, right? And show where traffic court was established under that Constitution. And then show, because a lot of these Grand Sheiks say there's no such thing as consular court. Yet they took their pledge to help enforce that Constitution. Show where consular is not in that Constitution, and they said it's not. And they said that Taji guy is lying. So read that Constitution for yourself and see if it says traffic court or does it say consular. Well, I'll leave it at that. self-evident.
Oh, let's have one cut.
Now,
Article 3.
Would you like to read that?
Yeah, you want to play with it? Come on.
No, they want to play. But they don't know here in the House of Reawakening Minds, we deal with facts. We don't deal with beliefs.
We're going to read from the Organic
Like you said,
Constitution
brother, back there.
from 1790. Article 3, Section 2. Diversity of nationality. Diversity of citizenship. Proper venue.
Oh, can you come up here, please, brother?
Oh, come on.
Come on, man. Please, man. I want to see, man. I got my blue suit on.
Real quick.
Blue gray, brother.
All right, come right
Right.
I don't want to see my blue suit, man.
We want to start.
Article 3.
Section 1, Section 2, Section 3.
Well, Article 3 deals with what? The judicial powers, does it not?
Right.
So read this for, most people know. But let's read this for the people who don't know, who get caught up in this controversy with Grand Chiefs of the Moorish Science Temple of America making videos around the country saying that Taj Tarik Bey is lying by mentioning the word consulars or jurisdiction.
We're reading the
Angrily.
Constitution for the United States.
Thank you. Go ahead, brother. Read slow, clear.
Article 3, Section 1. The judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court, and in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. The judges, both of the Supreme and inferior courts, shall hold their offices during good behavior, and shall, at stated times, receive for their service a compensation, which shall not be diminished during their continuance in office. Section 2. The judicial power shall extend to all cases.
Can I interrupt? Did it say some?
To all cases.
Wait, did it say maybe?
The judicial power shall extend to all cases in law and in equity arising under this Constitution, the law of the United States, and treaties made, or which shall be made.
So the treaty and the Constitution are bound as one. Is that
Islam.
Am I confused?
Let me come again.
Read it.
The judicial power shall extend to all cases in law and equity arising under this Constitution. Under this Constitution, the laws of the United States and treaties made, or which shall be made under their authority, to all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers, and consuls.
Can you repeat that, please?
To all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers, and consuls.
So these are your jurisdictions that are established in that Constitution. Right. Does any one of them say traffic court?
No. Nope.
But there's more.
Oh, go ahead.
To all cases of admiralty and maritime jurisdiction.
So even when they talk in admiralty law and maritime, it still comes under this jurisdiction. Is it not true?
To controversies to which the United States shall be a party. To controversies between two or more states. Between a state and citizens of another state. Between citizens of different states. Between citizens of the same state claiming lands under grants of different states, and between a state or the citizens thereof and foreign states, citizens or subjects.
Can you stop right there? Is that not an international document, or is it not? Does it demonstrate diversity of states even within the state's jurisdiction, including foreign states? Right. Therefore, that is a diversity issue, isn't it? In all controversy, is it? Right. So what is the court system all over the planet that deals with diversity of citizenship and diversity of nationality? Can you go back up and says where it establishes those courts to deal with these controversies? It's called diplomats, ambassadors, and consuls. Therefore, one of the established courts Article 3 is consular court.
Wait a
My
minute,
question is Taji lying?
No, sir.
No, Taj, you gotta expand that. That's not.
I don't need to expand it.
Well, you taught us. You said that we got into a big fight. Now let's confess.
Yeah, we was boxing.
All right. So when we say this, we have to say, the organic Constitution for the United States, Article 3,
Yes.
Section 2, diversity of nationality,
All right. Go ahead.
diversity of citizenship, proper venue, consul court.
All right. So what makes it proper venue is established via that Constitution. Now, can anyone deny that Noble Drew Ali opened up the divine warning, mentioned the different nation states, and said that they all must answer up to that Constitution? Why not you?
Why not you? It's not business.
And then they said Drew Ali didn't teach civics, didn't they? And that Taji guy is lying and going to get people in trouble talking about jurisdiction and consular court. Why don't they argue with that Constitution and argue with Drew Ali?
I know we're about to close, Todd, but let me just say this, Todd. I gotta ask a question. Let me go throw a phone in. Let me play devil's advocate. So just bear with me. I gotta do it, Todd. Dr. Naila back there, she tired. She tired.
Yeah, well, and it ain't nothing.
A guy by the name of Eisenhower, he closed this court, didn't he?
Yeah.
Dwight D or something, he closed it.
Are we talking about the kingship oligarchy?
Yeah, I mean.
Hold on, let's slow down.
Yeah.
Let's go to record. Everyone. Organic Act of Congress 1871, February the 2nd. Are there any lawful holders of office as constitutional officers since then operating at North America?
No.
By which authority did Dwight D. Eisenhower, the German Dutchman, have any authority whatsoever to dismiss the venue for treaty enforcement, which is a part of the Constitution, for the United States in 1954 to promote his Negro preacher marching guys and the 14th Amendment stockholdings called the 14th Amendment Negro Act for monkeys?
Are you asking for a quote warranto? Are you asking for a quote warranto from?
Oh, well, like that. How about this? How about reading Article 6 of that Constitution? Very clear, because you got the mic, so use it up before the battery runs down.
All right, here's the money, guys. We're reading the Constitution for the United States. The gold and silver coming right here, Article 6. All debts contracted and engagements entered into before the adoption of this Constitution.
Which means the treaty.
Peace treaty.
Before the adoption of this Constitution, I'm coming, shall be as valid against the United States.
Did it say for or against?
Shall be as valid against the United States.
So they're not the superior party, are they?
Shall be as valid against the I'm reading the Constitution. Shall be as valid against the United States under this Constitution as under the Confederation.
Which means it's still in operation.
Islam. This Constitution, the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made, or which shall be made under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land.
Read that again. At what point did you say the Bar Association?
This Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof.
Even future laws can't contradict that, can it?
That's right. And all treaties made, and all treaties made, and all treaties made, or which shall be made, under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary, notwithstanding.
So what authority did Dwight D. Eisenhower have to undermine that?
None.
So anything that they say that contradicts that has no standing
in law.
Islam.
And he took an oath to that, didn't he?
Yes, let's talk about that.
And what some of these Moors are saying, who are actually operating with them? He said that Constitution is dead.
They said that this is not that this Constitution has been subverted and all the way, and it has
now,
no
well,
power.
he said, and since that Constitution has never changed,
That's right.
well, I don't think we have to go any further. Let's not go
Exactly.
I won't be on your radio show.
Let me read this. I want to read this last paragraph of Article 6. I just want to close it out.
Great.
The senators and representatives before mentioned, and the members of the several state legislatures, and all executive.
So that's all the branches, isn't it?
And judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution, but no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States.
Now you see why them brothers surrounding me around that table saying that I was lying. Who's lying?
We're going to have a problem, Taj.
No.
When the people...
They're going to have a problem when these people figure out who they've really been working for. Anyway, I want to thank you all for coming out here to the House of Reawakening Minds. Hope we do some good. We're giving you points of reference because you already know any one of these areas is a subject matter within itself that can be expanded upon. And because you're intelligent and because of your seeking truth, study on your own, accept nothing that I say, like I said before. If I say something, I will, when I'm able to, back it up with documents.
There you go.
Prove me wrong. Dr. Nail?
So I want to thank you, Grand Sheik, for this awesome class. I also want to, I just still need to say this. We had a discussion this week with regard to something that happened, and I didn't get a chance to talk to the brother to ask him to put something out, because remember, my texts were getting blocked when I was trying to send him texts. But I think on the subject matter of subversive activities that are happening within our own, either our own or some higher level of what you were talking about, both.
Let me say this for everybody, okay. And those in UK, and we already know they're listening in China and Japan, Honduras, Boykin, etc. Pay attention to the details of things that have been going on, and know that we are sincerely trying to help solve these problems of not just us here, but with the family around the world who are under attack by the Khazarian order, faking as government. And I think it's clear that people are finally figuring out that these people aren't the legitimate government, which is another reason why they've been attacking us. But remember, to attack the truth and to attack the Constitution and to attack what Noble Ali has done and laid out for us is actually an attack on yourselves. So don't get it twisted.
That's right.
The same way they're attacking Trump for trying to restore the republic, the attack ain't on Trump. The attack is on the people. He's just a face. And understand all of this stuff is tied together. If you think it's not, I'm telling you that it is. Are we clear?
Clear.
Joali gave you that questionnaire.
101.
And that 101, and some got a 102, and he gave you that Quran, and he tailored it specifically for you, and told you that half has not been told. However, he's given you more than enough to save yourselves. Now, go out on them hedges and them highways and redeem your people. Continue.
I just want to say that this week I received a text message that was kind of cryptic and kind of crazy, and It allegedly came from our
Allegedly
came from Brother Sheik Taj Bey.
An old phone that
From an old phone number that he no longer has. Somebody, and I don't know, Grand Sheik and I are trying to figure out who has the capacity to get somebody's old phone number, send out group text, and then start sending emails, and a person under the person's name who used to have it, who no longer has the number. So I want to say this publicly because I know this is going out. If you received this crazy text like I did about, I gave everything over to the FBI, hope that helps, and some other emails that have been going out under Sheik Taj Bey's name, he did not send this. Matter of fact, he didn't even know what it was until I sent him the screenshot, and I knew he didn't have that number anymore because I'm talking to him on his number. And he said, well, I haven't had that number for months. And I knew his number, he didn't have that number. So someone was able to get that number and send out text messages to one of my group text groups and then start sending emails under his name. So we're saying that to say that all kinds of things are going on to create suspicion and schism within this Morrison Divine and National Movement. And you cannot believe everything you see or hear. So, I'm sure that it has to be coming from some high level. They're just trying to, get us at each other's throats. And so if you got that email or you got one of those texts, know that it's not coming from this brother. It absolutely is not. And I really felt I had to say that because I know there's so many of you going to hear, you're either on here now or you're going to see the replay of this. As you said, we are under attack. And I like what Sister Light said. We're not attacking. We're not at war. We're at peace. We're at peace. But there is an attack going on against the Moors. But that doesn't mean we stop. But we can't believe everything we see or hear, especially on social media. And now not even who you're getting emails and texts from. Again, I want to.
Yeah. We want to just say trust, but verify. Putting 10 times more emphasis on verification than trust. Islam.
Again, we want to thank Grand Sheik. I want to thank all of you all for coming out and from far and wide. I want to thank the over 200 plus people that have been watching on combination of Facebook and YouTube. We want to most of all thank our National Grand Sheik for, as usual, no holds barred, giving us facts. And we just, we pray for his continued strength and protection as he does what he does, because this, he takes it like a grain of salt. But we know, folks are out there, we need to send positive vibes and energy to our brother.
Absolutely.
Please send it, keep your, that same vibes coming towards the House of Reawakening Minds, and we appreciate your support. Those of you who have sent us some donations tonight, thank you so much. We can use them. We haven't said anything lately about it, but we definitely do need to have the support so that we can continue to do what we're doing. We want you to all have a great night, safe travels back to your destinations. We'll be back on the first Friday. Yeah, Grand Sheik will be back on the first Friday, and we hope that you will tune in also. Islam, and good night. See everybody going in front of the camera. I say good night, but I have to start the camera. Okay.
Hold on, guys. Let me get it.